And this is why I said it's better we do the one movie and not the three of them, because I don't think we'd ever be able to finish the stream.
No, 100%. Hello, everyone. It's the Drinker here, and this is Happy Hour 23, I think. I'm starting to lose track of them a little bit. But I am joined tonight by the last remaining long man in a world gone short, the one and only MauLer.
Hello
Good
there.
to have you on. Good to have you on board, man. It's been a while since we've done this.
Yeah, it has. What was the last one? Was it Terminator? Was that the last one we did?
We did Terminator. I think we did The Invisible Man as well. Or The Invisible Man. Yeah.
I can't believe we did Terminator 1 and 2 in one stream. That's amazing.
I know. To be fair, it went on for about 7 hours. It was a pretty long conversation.
Oh, I love those movies. I love Hot Fuzz as well. So we're all good.
Yeah. As you may have gathered from the title, everyone, we are going to be covering Hot Fuzz tonight, the second movie in the Blood and Ice Cream trilogy. I'm never sure what to call it. Some people call it the Cornetto Trilogy. Some people call it like the Three Flavors Cornetto Trilogy. Like, it's got a bunch of different names, but
I've always known it as the Cornetto Trilogy. But I'm pretty sure that sort of happened as they were doing them in terms of people. I remember reading, like, they were like, I think it was by Hot Fuzz that they were like, oh yeah, we had Cornettos in both of them just because sort of for the fun of it, we just like Cornetto or whatever. They weren't sponsored or anything, but I don't want to say too much because I might be remembering that wrong. But I just remember by the third one they were like, yeah, I guess there's Cornetto in all of them now. And then it was the red for the blood, blue for police, and then green for aliens.
Yeah.
It's a great little through line.
I mean, I think that's one of the things I love about these films is there's a lot of recurring elements and conversations and gags and stuff. And, from a writing point of view, I just love to see that sort of stuff done when it's done elegantly and not totally forced into things. And it's great. It's a pleasure to see. And yeah, when you suggested Hot Fuzz, I was like, yes, it's like genuinely like a favorite movie of mine that I've just been waiting ages to talk about, and I just haven't had the right opportunity. And this was just like a perfect one. So,
I mean, I hold it as one of the best movies ever made. I really do think it's up there. It's quality.
It's really fun, really like smart, brilliantly paced, really tight screenplay, and just incredibly rewatchable. I've seen it a whole bunch of times, rewatched it for this stream. I just had a blast with it, as always.
Oh yeah, super rewatchable, the movie as well, because it's so quotable as well. So many really, really great lines. And it's crazy. There's so much to compliment about the dialogue, but they get the local dialogue so good. There's so many lines that are so appealing to myself, and I remember all my friends loving it. It's just like, oh my god, they totally say something. Do you remember when I think it's Danny's ordering a lager or whatever, and the lady, the bartender, she's like, "Right, you are, my love." It's like, oh yes, they speak this. I do wonder, like, if Americans listen to it, they're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, they must be like scratching their heads with this shit. I just love how they have to, when they go out to the farmer guy who's been cutting the wrong hedge or something, and they have to have 2 layers of interpreters for him. I do love the policeman who talks like that, the old guy, and every so often when the woman makes some sort of joke, he'll just go like, tits.
Like he's clearly lost his mind.
I mean, it's just, people, I guess they quite often talk about, which is your favorite out of the Cornetto trilogy, and like, there's not many people that are going to say The World's Ends, although, fuck me, the older I get, the more relevant that movie sort of feels.
I've always felt that movie's a tad underrated. I still think it's the worst of the 3, but I do think it gets shot on quite a bit because it's the worst of the 3. People are like, they're all great. Maybe not The World's End. It's like, no, The World's End's really good.
It's got the best "fuck it" line that I've ever heard. Like, the context of it, it's Nick Frost when he's trying to explain what's going on, and it just ends with him like, so basically no one knows what's going on, so fuck it, and then he punches his hand right through a door and opens. I legit was like crying with laughter in the cinema when that.
It also has action scenes that are like, holy shit, this is like a random comedy movie. The action is like stellar. The long takes and stuff.
Oh, totally. The fight scenes, yeah, because they operated on the idea that, like, the drunker you get, the better you become at fighting. And so if you watch them, their moves get a bit more, like, advanced and kind of complex the drunker they get. It's really cool.
You just reminded me as well, Bill Nighy. his cameos get smaller and smaller throughout the trilogy. He goes from a supporting character to a tertiary character to a voice.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was deliberate or not, because I really like him in all three. I like him as just an actor in general. He's always great.
Oh yeah, he's always fun to watch. I mean, there's some of the guys who they cameoed in Hot Fuzz. I had to like look them up and check them. Like one of the Andes in Hot Fuzz is like the sort of shop assistant in Shaun of the Dead. And it's like he's aged about 10 years in the space of 2. It's weird. I don't know if just putting a mustache on a man just makes him older or something.
I think he got older, lost a little weight, and he put a mustache on. Now he looks like a completely different human being.
Yeah, it's uncanny. It really is. I love Paddy Considine in this as well. Like how he's just a complete prick to Angel throughout the whole movie.
Oh yeah, dude, the Andes are fantastic. There's so many. The comedy just never stops. Like he goes, "Why do you think we call them the Andes?" Like they're both called Andrew, and he goes, "And yeah, it's an uphill struggle talking to him, isn't it, Dad?" And then a bin just gets thrown at his head. Like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah, not just like a can of Coke or something like that. Like a fucking entire bin.
Exactly. I think that's why it's so funny. It's like this enormous object just goes into his head. I'd be straight off though. And they end up using the bit in the finale, which kind of leads me to say, like, holy shit, the setup and payoff in this movie. Is there a movie with more setup and payoff than Hot Fuzz?
It's really well crafted, and like everything that is set up has a payoff, and I think that's probably what sets it above Shaun of the Dead. Not that movie was badly written or anything, but that movie had sort of elements where it was a bit flabby or little holes in what's going on, whereas with this one it's just really tight. Everything's like resolved. It's a much more refined kind of movie, I suppose. They'd really perfected what they were doing there.
I can't imagine how many times you redrafted this script to keep going back and making sure everything connects, because holy shit, the work that went in. You watch the first half after you've seen the movie and you're like, oh, it's all there. It's amazing work.
So as we always do with these happy hours, we tend to go through the film and talk about it, and I know there's obviously going to be super chats and everything for everyone in chat. We will get through all of them, obviously. We tend to wait till the end to do that, just so we're not interrupting ourselves. So if that's cool with everybody else, we'll just kick things off, I guess.
Yeah.
So we get a little introduction to the main character, Chris Angel, who's a police officer in London.
Chris Angel?
Is it?
It's Nicholas Angel.
Nicholas Angel, fuck. Why did I say Chris there?
I'm
Where
not
did I
sure,
get Chris from?
Where did you get Chris from?
Oh, man. Oh, that's going to bug me now. I'm not sure if there was like a Fast Show sketch or something that had a guy named Chris Angel in it. And he was like an eco-warrior dude or something, but he totally wasn't into it. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, Nicholas Angel. And he's a police officer with the London Met. And he's extremely successful. He's like the best in his class at everything. But because he's kind of a victim of his own success, and as his superior explains to him, it's like you're basically making us look bad because you're putting us out of business.
We can probably return to it as once we've gone through the whole movie. But I would say there's a strong theme in this of like work versus play in terms of just how much you should do of both, and then I would say that they try and argue the drawbacks of an extreme amount of both. So like what'll happen if it's bad with both.
Yeah, I very much agree. I mean, his arc throughout the movie, I guess, is learning to kind of become less obsessive about work and connect more with people around him and like form friendships and relationships and all that sort of thing. And
it's interesting that they point out that he's got a degree in like sociology, meaning that like and they show him interacting with people. He's very competent at speaking to people, but only in regards to furthering his goals to like solve mysteries or to get crime sorted. He's very bad at generating friendships because it's not something he's just not used to. He doesn't consider it a high goal, and it's his girlfriend that says, you need to meet someone you care more about than your Japanese peace lily for you to understand like what it is that you need to do in your life, which is of course Danny. Danny's the one that changes everything for him.
Oh, they have some incredible scenes together. Like some of their conversations, I just love. There's some moments where they play it as almost like a romance, and he's I'll show you how to, how to start caring about people. And it's like, and if it was any other situation, you'd think he would lean in for a kiss, but then he goes into his DVD cabinet and just gets out Point Break.
And again, like, he wouldn't know by the power of Grayskull as a Saiyan, right? But when they see the collection of weaponry belonging to Webley, he says, by the power of Grayskull, Daddy does. And then when Angel sees his collection of DVDs, he says, by the, like, their respective inexperience, again, with work and play, like the shocking collections to each other. I just think stuff like that reinforces everything, while also just gives you a little giggle. You just sit there, like,
really is.
That's good.
And as a reference, like, a power of Grayskull is just brilliant. Like, I've used it a few times myself. Like, when something really awesome's happened. By the power of Grayskull.
But yeah, as introductions go for characters, Hot Fuzz might be one of the most, like, impressive in terms of amount of information per time, contextualized for more reason than simply the film being like, this is who this guy is. Because why is it that the film tells us he's born and bred in the city, he's got degrees in politics and sociology, he's effective with the community, he's good at fencing, cycling, chess, the 100-meter dash, armed response. He's got like 9 accommodations. He's clearly an overachiever. He's got 400% higher arrest rate than any officer. It's like, why are we finding all this out? It's like, not only is that really useful for understanding his character, but it's what he's thinking about. He thinks he's about to be promoted because of all of that. He's like, and if you remember, he's relatively happy, and when he says you're being promoted to sergeant, he says, he's like, he's not surprised. He's like, yes, you know, like that's obviously what it should be, because I've done this well. I've made all these, you know, I've done so, and it's a really cool way to do it, because it's fully characterized him as well as giving a reason for it, and then we can get right into the story. It takes like 1 minute to establish fully exactly who this character is.
Yeah, I think the Cornetto Trilogy was always superb at these fast edits, you know, to convey a bunch of information, like a journey, you know, like character information or whatever, in rapid order. So you just get what you need and then you move on. And that's, I guess, something they do extremely well. It's all stuff that factors in later as well. Like, you find, you know, he's firearms trained. Okay, there's going to be lots of shooting later on. You mentioned fencing. He actually does fight a guy with a sword at one point. Like, so it's all stuff that's relevant. It harkens back to that Shaun of the Dead thing, when Ed's talking to him about the pub crawl they should go on, and every pub is a reference to something that's going to happen in the movie.
Yep.
You know, like we go to the Little Princess, to like, which is a reference to picking up their Sean's girlfriend, and we'll get to back to the Winchester for back of the bar for shots, again, like reference to the gunfight that happens there. It's just all clever little things that, like, you know, it's set up and pay off. It's really great.
Yeah, like I said, it tells you everything you need to know about him, and so within a minute, we already get a like shocking twist. It's like like, this guy is incredible. He's going to be a sergeant in the country. You're like, what?
Yeah,
and that's your premise. And you might, I feel like people could easily in the first half of the movie be like, what is this film about? Like, it's a guy who's really good at his job who ends up in the country. Like, if you didn't watch any trailers, you know. But the film, much like the rest in the Cornetto Trilogy, goes nuts at a particular point. Like, things seem nice and normal, and then suddenly it's like, whoa. Because of course, I think the point in the movie where you'd say like, okay, things are getting really weird now, is when you see the Grim Reaper type kill the 2 actors. That's when you're like, oh shit, so something is going on.
I mean, there's obviously lots of things going on before that, and just like Timothy Dalton just being like the most sinister character ever.
I kind of want to like point out, he's fantastic in that movie. I love all the ways he delivers his lines and his dialogue. It's so funny. Like, some of the stuff he says is so evil.
he's just having an absolute ball. And it's great to see it, like a proper serious actor like Timothy Dalton just ham it up in moments like that, you know. And
isn't it? It's after the two people die that they're all talking about how sad it is. He just goes, "Let us drink to their demise."
Yeah.
He's like, what do you mean drink to their memory? And he's like, yes. Anyway, just moving on. Oh, it's so wonderfully evil.
Yeah.
I think they're relying on us believing that they're going to subvert us, that he's not actually the bad guy. It's like, no, he's not actually the only bad guy. They're all bad guys.
Yeah. And when you find out their actual motivation for being bad and for committing all these murders, it's just a fantastic moment.
Yeah, because I would argue that's again another subversion. We find out that the reasoning is a lot simpler because he's generated this whole web of situations for motivations for why everybody would have done everything. And they're like, nah, they were just making the village look bad. All of these people were.
Yeah.
I'd have that.
It's like, it's the florist that gets me, that they thought that, or Angel assumes that it's because she was about to sell up her land to a property developer and it was going to put Skinner out of business. And it just turns out like, no, we just didn't want her taking her florist skills to a different village.
If we can't have her, no one can.
Yeah.
Do you know,
of all the mundane reasons to kill someone.
You were talking about the casting earlier. Do you remember The Mask of Zorro, the Anthony Hopkins one?
Yeah.
You know, Rafael Montero in that film? That's the guy who plays him is Dr. Hatcher in Hot Fuzz. The one who was like, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out of it. I was like, Jesus Christ, that guy is Raphael? Like, whoa.
I didn't know that. I did know that he was in Lethal Weapon 3, and he plays like a bent cop in that. He's like the antagonist of the story. And damn, he like in that movie, he looked about 20 years younger. Like they kind of aged him up a little bit for this. He's got the gray beard and he's bald and stuff like. But yeah, again, like just this actor who's been in lots of movies, like some big films, and then suddenly he's just in a little thing like this. It's great. The people they were able to get. I didn't know that Peter Jackson was like the Santa that stabs Nicholas Angel in the little flashback.
Yeah, it's Peter Jackson, right?
Yeah, just a little passing moment,
Also, Kate Blanchett, I believe, is his girlfriend as well.
Yeah, with a mask on the whole time.
Yep. Again, these are cameos where they clearly don't care if you know it or not. It's because they're friends, probably, and they just did it as a favor.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the kind of setup for this. Then he's been transferred to this small village is it Devon or? It's little English county anyway, way out in the countryside. And he's not happy about it, so he goes to seek out his ex-girlfriend to talk to her about it. And there's this gag there that I know it's really simple, but it just really made me laugh when he goes in to try and have this heart-to-heart with her. She's a crime scene investigator, like a forensics person, and she's in the middle of investigating a crime scene with a bunch of other people. They're all in the sort of coveralls. They've all got their face masks on and stuff. So he goes in to talk to her, and it's not her. It's a different guy. I don't know why. It just really made me laugh.
And he doesn't. I think it's all delivery as well, because he's like, Janine, I'm moving away for a while. It's like, I'm not Janine. And then he just turns around and goes, Janine, I'm moving away for. He does the exact same delivery again. And the guy walks past and just goes, hello there. And then later on, the other one goes, hello there. It's this weird. Sometimes it's hard to explain what's so funny about it, but it's just like an absurdist world where it was like, why are people talking this way? And it's just like fun.
Well, it's like when she explains that she's got a new boyfriend, and Angel's like, "Oh, is it whatever the guy's name is?" And she's like, "No, do you think I would go out with him?" And then she points to the other guy that she actually is going out with, and it's just another guy with a mask on. Like they all look exactly the same. He's like, "Hi." And
they do the whole vocab guidelines in that scene as well. They mention that that gets a nice repeat. See, because that is introduced to show, right? Because this is what I mean about like how well the script is done. The reason he says that is additional proof that he can't stop thinking about his work, right? It doesn't matter that she's getting the vocab guidelines wrong, but that's why we get that. It's just to reinforce that. But then later it's used again to correct Danny because he says it's a traffic accident. He says, no, it's a traffic collision because we don't know that someone wasn't behind it. It's like, ooh. So now the vocab guidelines are not just something that he knows about to show that he's obsessed with his work, but now it can like tie into the story. And then you have Danny starts reading the vocab guidelines book because he respects Angel, and then he uses it in one of the last scenes in the film to show that he's growing as well. It's just like, he's now taking his job more seriously, so that's his progression of his character. Yep.
And it's the same for like the other police officer, and I cannot remember his name. He's like the guy with the sort of middle-aged guy with dark hair, who's really dumb, and he has to constantly look to Angel to tell him what to do throughout the thing. But then near the finale, when they're trying to work out how to assault a supermarket, he just comes up with all this tactical stuff, like how they should go in and secure it aisle by aisle, all that sort of thing. And Angel's just like, Yeah, not bad. What he said. Again,
Yeah,
he's a guy who's learned from his exposure to Angel.
It would have to be that he's just like relying on Angel so much. He's probably in his spare time trying to get better at his actual job. Which again, it's like Angel needed the village needed him. They needed to learn off each other what they're missing, like both of them as entities, if you will. And I really like it. It's there's so much evidence in the film that it's only 2 hours. The amount they cram into this. To like just writing wise, loads of development, loads of really small bits running all the way through. Because of course, do you like as well that all of like the community watch members, they're all names that end in as in like hatcher, shooter, hooker, words that are often to do with professions, but they're all very country names.
Yeah, they're all very Anglo-Saxon, kind of solid. British names, 100%, and it's exactly what they were going for.
Mr. Reaper, Reverend Archer, they're all very. The accent as well, man. I really love the accents throughout this film. They're so fun.
Yeah, because again, it's the least threatening, the least kind of intimidating kind of accent that you could imagine. So then to have it put into this setting where there's big gun battles and explosions and murders.
The beauty of the juxtaposition, because like he thinks he's trying to figure out if someone's been killed, right? And then he's like, spot a bother up at Ilroy Farm. They're like, well, what's happened? He's like, Mr. Webley's been trimming hedgerows that don't belong to him. He's like, okay, what else? And he's like, that's it.
Yeah, that's the crime.
Not just the event itself, but also the accent. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's the one where they find obviously all the weapons. And do you love the editing of that bit when he hits the sea mine and the camera just tilts over and over and over while zooming into all of it? Sea mine. I fucking love that he has a sea mine. By the way, it's wonderful.
I know, like out of all the stuff you could have, it's like okay, the guns and stuff. It's like you can. I don't know. You could sort of see how someone might amass a collection like that, but just a fucking massive mine. But again, even the mine becomes relevant later.
Yep. That's the thing. Nothing's wasted in this film. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And in another bit of like recurring dialogue, like so Angel's he's transferred out to this village. Like you get a nice little quick cut thing of him traveling, a whole bunch of like trains and everything he has to get on because he's so far out in the middle of nowhere. I think you see his phone and just the signal on his phone just gradually goes down. As he gets further out into the countryside, because it keeps cutting to it, and like the signal bars are like slow, like lower and lower down.
There's a great video by Every Frame of Pause that goes over Edgar Wright's editing and how he tries to take things that we almost take for granted in movies in terms of just like his example would be a lot of normal movies will do soundtrack blares, loads of wide shots from the B like helicopter team would have shot from location to location, and then them in a car and them getting out in the new location. That is just typically how they do it. With this one, like Edgar Wright takes the time to tell a lot about what it means and what it means to this character, and that's present throughout the movie. One of the ones I think that's super interesting is when he first grabs up all of the kids while he's there. He says, "Oh, it's a lot of paperwork." The concept of paperwork is incredibly boring. They mention it a couple times in this film. The editing for when he's doing the paperwork, it plays like really fast and upbeat, like almost rock music. I struggle to get a genre on it because I'd have to listen to it again. I can't remember, but it's also like cut really fast, doing all kinds of writing and zooms and overlaying of shots and showing the people getting snapped up. And you're just like, it's not just to make us more interested because we don't want to watch him fucking doing paperwork. But it's also to show how he takes paperwork. He's like, this is the job. I'm doing things right. I'm nailing these people. Like everyone in the village is like paperwork. It's like, don't have to process everyone. And if you remember, by the end, when Sergeant Angel is having some fun, he makes some jokes with them in the room. They're all doing paperwork.
Yeah.
So this stuff is happening the whole time.
Yeah, again, they've learned it from it. When you're talking about like the fast pace of it and stuff, like I love how even when and it's definitely an Edgar Wright thing. Like even when he does things like hold up his police badge, like you get the kind of whoosh sound effect. Like everything's fast paced. Like when he's policing up the kids who are in the pub. Yeah, again, just like Nicholas Angel, police. Like, what are you doing in here? What age are you? It's just funny little things like that. Like really good.
They do it again when they're like, "Do you want to read through every bloody edition of the Stanford Citizen?" When he does, the montage is again high octane. Like it's because he's researching, he's discovering the truth, and I just like that it helps us as an audience to get through what would be a boring montage potentially, and it also tells you something about him, how he sees all this stuff, and how he goes through it. I think really good.
Yeah, well, I think a different movie would have played that out really slowly. Like you say, it probably would have wanted to convey that same sense of like he's having to put in a lot of work here to do a lot of research, but it would have had really long cuts and the music would have been like much slower just to show the monotonous kind of nature of it. Whereas in this case, it's like, well, it's fine. You can condense it down into a really quick montage, but you can show that there's a lot happening. He's doing a great deal of work. It's just happening quickly from our point of view. And I think that's, again, it's just the hallmark of these guys who are able to edit all of this stuff down to the bare essentials and get things moving quickly. It's a great skill. And I've always believed this about, writing. If you can convey a lot with very little, that is the hallmark of elegant, quick, intelligent writing. And you get that in spades with movies like this.
Totally, yeah. That montage ends with him sort of shaking his hand like it hurts because he's processed all of those people across the whole night, and then it cuts to him on his bed, not sleeping, doing hand exercises.
Yeah,
because that's his life. He's all about his work. He's got a flaw. He needs to improve his ability to work. And again, it's just like this is all right at the beginning to set you an emotion. He's essentially almost a robot. He is super efficient at doing his job.
Apparently the police quite liked this movie because they were saying the thing it gets really right is like the bit where he says, like, he holds up his notebook and he's like, this is the most important piece of equipment you will ever have as a police officer, just your ability to make notes and notice things and take them down, because that is what makes the difference in solving cases. And they're like, yeah, that's exactly right. Like, there's so much of it being a police officer that's just observing people and understanding what they're doing, what they're saying, what they really mean, and noting it down. And that's an interesting thing. Like, yeah, obviously the movie eventually devolves into gunfights and stuff, but it kind of makes a serious point about what they have to do.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot to take in terms of messaging from this film. And it's definitely got a positive view of the police, which, to be honest with you, is almost refreshing these days.
I know, damn, yeah, that's a rare thing.
And that's the thing. I would say it's almost a balanced take, because, of course, a lot of what the village people think of what he does as to be like, you're taking it a bit far, right? Like going to the letter of the law. It would be like if you had a friend who was upset at you for ever not doing everything by very specific laws. You'd just be like, dude, come on. Like, nobody's getting hurt. It's fine. And it's what they say to him at first when they're like, we're letting kids in the bar to have a few drinks. Yeah, sure. But, they're not out there making trouble. So it's better that they're in here, and it's just like, it's against the law, can't have it.
I think it's the different cultures as well between cities and little towns and villages. When you're in a city, the police could be from anywhere. You don't know them or anything like that. And they're more adversarial, I guess, because of that. Whereas if you're in a little village, like in this film, the police officers are guys that you probably live next door to, or you know them from day-to-day life. And so there's a much kind of like more, I guess, like cordial relationship there. And that's why you've got that attitude of like, the police will turn a little blind eye to little indiscretions or whatever, because no harm done kind of thing. And that's what Angel really struggles with, because he comes from London, where it's a completely different style of doing his job. And so he over the course of the movie eventually learns to mellow a little bit with some of that stuff.
Yeah, like the application of the law, I guess he learns that it's not just categorical. A lot of it is being used as like a set metric when it just simply wouldn't be very relevant to. Because I mean, what's interesting when I was growing up is like a lot of people in Britain, a lot of parents will be like, their kids can try a bit of alcohol as they're growing up, well before it's like legal or whatever. And then you find out that America, you have to be 21. It's like, wait, what? Like, what? You have to. It's just like, this is the thing. We as humans have a difficulty understanding exactly when and where things should happen legally. It's the best we could do. And so, like, these villages, obviously, because everything is so quiet and so away from, I don't know, mainland civilization, they're just like, we just do some of these things a little bit differently. It's just like it's unacceptable for him, and it's part of what leads into him possibly getting himself killed in the village.
I mean, so yeah, to put that into some sort of context for people, then like he arrives in the village, he checks into the local hotel because apparently his cottage that he's meant to be staying in isn't ready, so he's staying in this shitty hotel. The woman at the front
Oh,
desk,
dude, yeah,
she's doing her crossword, and she's like, "Oh, can I help you?" Oh, no. He approaches the desk first of all, and he's like, "Hi, I believe I'm meant to be staying here." And like there's this sinister Shining type music playing, and she's like, "But you've always been here."
Oh, it's awesome
like,
because we're already kind of on his side in terms of like we don't want him to be here. If you're empathizing with him already, because this is just not his environment. And so like the first place he enters, this spooky thing is said. He's just like, what the fuck? And she's like, oh, sorry, I thought you were my husband. Sorry.
Yeah. And then it's like, we've got a room set aside for you, fascist. And he's like, what? It's like, oh, it's just a crossword thing. And then, yeah, like when it finishes up their conversation, he's like, hag. She's like, what? And again, he's like, yeah, what's number 9 down? But that then gets referenced at the end when they have their confrontation.
And people like point out the gun she's using when she attacks him, when she says fascist. It's like, I'll say MP38, I think, something like that.
It's a World War II submachine gun, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the specific way, but it's definitely a German used gun. So that's obviously the point, part of it anyway. But when he says hag to her at the beginning, it's again not just the dialogue itself, but the delivery. He goes, hag.
Yeah.
It's so like biting the way he does it. A lot of it's so down to timing and stuff. But again, if you've got this good of a script behind you, it's going to be so easy to make such great laughs. Like the Bill Bailey and his clone or whatever, like the two Bill Baileys that operate the it's such a, because like he comes in, he goes, morning, Sergeant, and he just looks at him and he looks completely different. He's like,
yeah.
we don't even understand what the fuck's going on with that, but you won't really remember like that's something you need to keep an eye on until like the payoff comes, where it's like there's two of them. You're like, oh fuck, oh okay.
Yeah, and it's like there was no need to do it. It's just a gag that they decided to put in because it's like, that would be quite funny if we did that. And like, nobody tells me nothing. So yeah, he's checked into the hotel, and then I think he wanders over to the local pub just to have a drink, and it's like he's drinking cranberry juice because he doesn't, he's super healthy and all the rest of it, and that's when he notices all the kids who are underage drinking in there, and basically turfs them all out. Even though the bartender tries to explain, they're maybe a few months underage, but it keeps them off the streets, kind of thing. But he takes them all out, and I love the reaction then, because it's like you get this shot of basically an empty pub and him just sitting there. The bartender's like, another cranberry juice. It's like just done him out of his evening trade, basically.
Yeah, so you rewatch the film and you're like, they were probably already discussing like what they're going to do with him if he's going to keep like messing with the order they have there. But yeah, it's I imagine that's probably common in a lot of country type places that is underage drinking, just because.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can vouch for that. Like grew up in like a small village, and they would absolutely like serve you underage at the local bar, like, and as long as you weren't ridiculously underage or whatever, but they'd be like, I know exactly who you are and how old you are, but it's like, it's fine, nobody's gonna bother too much, and it's just it's a more laid back attitude in that part of the world, I guess, for exactly that reason. Like, no one's going to police us on it too much, and it keeps them off the streets, kind of thing. So, fair enough, But yeah, that's where he also meets Danny, who's pissed as a fart and tries to drive home. Like, very, very.
Interestingly, because like someone just super chatted the correct gun. Apparently, it's a Sten gun that was British. So I was looking at the thread that I read this on, and it says, in Hot Fuzz shootout scene, the woman who yells fascist is using an MP43, a weapon used by the Waffen SS in World War II. And then the top comment says, that's a Sten gun. Pretty sure they're just holding it wrong. And then another correction says, no, it's an MP34. And so I was just like, wait, what gun is she using?
I thought it was a Sten because the magazine's fitted horizontally, whereas an MP44, it's vertically mounted.
The MP34, which is again horizontal.
Right, okay.
So now I'm not actually sure what she's using.
Yeah, I mean, the Sten would be a much easier gun to come by in the UK for obvious reasons. It was manufactured here.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're talking about like this village where, it's bizarro land where everyone's packing guns that like you absolutely could not purchase in Britain.
Dude,
Who knows?
Wonderful setup and payoff for the movie as well. But yeah, I wish Rags was here. He'd probably be able to tell me what gun it is, definitely. So this is the biggest post on the thread. It says, I think he meant to say that the woman uses an MP34, not an MP43. An MP34 is a machine pistol, and what she's yeah. So you know what, chat, go and find out whether or not that's even true, because I'm not actually 100% sure anymore. But
when a lot of people are saying MP34 in chat here, so
yeah. So yeah, we got when they first have a chat, they go on lunch, and he's only just arrived to work, and they're like, "Yeah, lunchtime," and he's like, oh, "Okay," and they talk about they get onto the conversation of guns because he's had a bit of fame for having saved a hostage situation with a guy shooting a Kalashnikov at him, or shooting with one. Which, by the way, for characterization, I don't know if you remember, when he's packing his stuff up, he has a wall. And there's only 2 images on it, one with his pedal car and one with the clipping from the newspaper saying he saved a family.
I saw the the newspaper clipping. I didn't see the pedal car thing, because that obviously becomes relevant later when he's talking about his childhood.
It's so Spartan in terms of like what matters to this man. It's like his adherence to the law, as well as the reason he does it, which is he thinks it's the right thing to do.
Well, he's living in cadet digs, isn't he? Because he's been he's split up with his girlfriend, so he's kind of moved out of his house, and like they even mentioned that it's like you're basically bunking in with the cadets, so you've just got this little cupboard of a room, and so that's what he's got in it. It's just his police gear.
Sure, but, of course, the wall is bare except for those 2 things.
Yeah.
So it makes you think like there's obviously a specific reason he would have put those 2 on there out of everything, right? Like, and I just think it's good for again characterization. Nice to understand who he is.
Yeah.
And yeah, what I was saying about the weapon, sorry, was that they say like, oh, there's more weapons in the country than there are in the city, and he's like, wait, what? And then they go, everyone's packing around here, farmers. They say everyone and their mums is packing around, right? And so this, again, how good the dialogue is. The reason they're doing this now is a joke. It's supposed to be like everyone and their mums, farmers' mums. That's funny. But then later, the Mr. Reaper, the one who asked Angel to go shooting with him sometime, that would be fun for him or whatever, he says, "Mom," when Angel attacks him, and his mum turns up with a fucking shotgun and tries to... it's just a wonderful little payoff with something that it already had the payoff. We were laughing at it, and it's like, nah, it's going to have another payoff for you, just if you didn't see it coming.
This is one of the few movies where you'll see like an 80-year-old woman getting fly kicked in the face as well.
Awesome.
So you get a feel for like the local police department, which is really big actually for such a small village. Like there's a lot of people in it. There's even a CID department. But yeah, so you've got Danny, who's like the son of the local police sergeant or chief or whatever it might be. Who's played by Nick Frost, who's just a great character. Like he's clearly like completely unqualified to be a policeman, but he's just like tolerated.
Yeah, he's got the spirit though, right? Like that seems to be what Nicholas Angel values in Danny as well, is that he clearly wants to help people. He wants to do the right thing, and he obviously commits to that when he has to choose between his dad and doing the right thing in the end. He picks.
Yeah, indeed. But yeah, he's he doesn't take his job as a policeman terribly seriously to begin with, because it's a totally unchallenging environment. Like there's not really much crime for him to police, or at least you think so.
Yeah, I would say as well, he's arguably been nurtured that way. Like his dad is clearly, the way he punishes his officers is feeding them cake.
Yeah. I think he makes them buy cake, doesn't he? Like he makes Danny buy them Black Forest Gatto or something, and it's like if it's something really serious, he has to buy them ice cream for a month.
Yeah, he sees it. He's like, "Oh, Dad!" Like, "Oh no!" And Simon Pegg's just like, "What the fuck?" Like, he was drinking while driving, and he has to eat ice cream. Like, okay,
the kind of thing you would lose your license for, like as a normal person.
Yeah, in the city, that could destroy your entire career as a police officer potentially.
Oh, for 100%, something like that, you'd be done. So Yeah, there's those people. There's the woman of the team, like I think it's Olivia Colman that plays her. She's always making like, you know, crude jokes, which is great. Like she gets a whole laugh out of everyone. You've got the Andes, who are the CID guys, who are just complete dicks towards Angel throughout the whole film. Yep. But they're great at the same time. I think genuinely my favorite scene with them is when they give him a stare down, like Paddy Considine and the other guy, and there's like the boom music every time they do it. And then he moves out of shot, the other guy does it, and then he moves back into shot.
In terms of that's another thing every frame Paul goes over, the way that Edgar Wright can frame some stuff where it's literally something moving in and out, and it's incredibly funny. They do it with the cake in the beginning of if you remember when he's in the office and it's I think it's Danny offering him cake. It comes in on the side of the screen and she goes, "No thanks," and it goes back out of the screen. It's just like stuff like that, and yeah, that's one of the best ones where he pops his head back in frame just to move it back out. Oh, I love it. It's so good.
So he's he's given his duties, I guess, as a police officer, and he's pretty much just sent out to do really mundane tasks like police up a swan, and go and talk to like a farmer who's been trimming hedges, like, or the wrong hedges or something. And I think that's where you get all the firearms scene where this guy. Yeah, they have to take the old guy along as an interpreter, and this farmer's standing there like just spouting gibberish, like hi, but they notice that he's just holding a shotgun. It's like, you got a license for that? And he's like, yeah, for this.
For this one.
Yeah, like, what do you mean by that? And then he takes him into his barn, and it's just fucking like it's an armory.
Yeah,
like filled with machine guns and rifles and everything. And a fucking sea mine, like we were talking earlier. It's like, what the fuck is this? And he's like, oh, it's just a piece of old junk. Hits it with his gun, and you hear like a ticking noise coming out.
Again, because they're doing the whole, like, they need to show how mundane it is there, but they're not going to miss a chance to have a really hilarious, like, action scene just come up randomly. Because, again, it's a dud, too, right? It doesn't actually go off. And so we're all like, oh, God, is it going to blow up the whole place? Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so out of place for the UK. Like you just, as I'm sure most people know, like, you basically can't get guns over here. You could probably buy a shotgun if you're a farmer or whatever, but that's pretty much your lot. So to see all this stuff just sitting in someone's barn is just amazing. But anyway, so he polices it all up and brings it back to the evidence locker. So it's locked up there, but obviously it's going to be relevant later in the movie. I think you also get to see, when he's going around the police station, the neighborhood watch people who, again, just they seem like local busybodies. Neighborhood watch is just like one of those silly things in the UK that's a total throwback. But they've got like this big sophisticated like CCTV system where
they're hanging about, loitering, sitting.
Yeah.
Like sitting.
Well, the living statues returned as well.
Oh yeah, the several screenshots. He's just the same. Excellent.
Even when he's dead, he's still got the same facial expression. So, it's weird because it sets this, it sets up all this stuff. Like, on the surface, it just seems like your typical small village in England where, the local busybodies are obsessing over like totally trivial stuff that doesn't matter. And it just seems all very harmless. And so Angel's like feeling quite, there's not really much for him to do here. There's no challenge. But he also gets to meet Skinner, who's like the local businessman, I guess, played by the always incredible Timothy Dalton. And this guy just has an absolute ball throughout the entire movie. I love how he's so like well dressed for everything. Yeah. I love how even when Angel pulls up his trousers because he thinks he's got a leg wound, he's even got those suspender things for his socks.
Yeah,
like, he's just that kind of guy.
And when he meets him in that neighborhood watch, I think he's like, he says something like, "I'm the proprietor of the local supermarché." It's just like, he just sounds evil constantly.
Yeah. He's so elaborate. He's so like theatrical about everything he does. It's great fun. There's a bit where they pull over like the local actor who's going to be starring in a play for like a Shakespeare play, like because they were speeding, and again it gives you a number of things. It introduces those characters. It introduces this guy as like this pompous like actor type who thinks he's more important than he is, and it explains Angel, like how kind of diligent he is about his work, and how serious he takes it. And it also starts that process of educating Danny about like how important it is to take notes about things and observe people and all that. So it does a bunch of different things, but the upshot, I think, is that Angel's forced to go to this play. He doesn't want to go, but like his sergeant has gotten him tickets, and he's there to like represent the police or something. So he's forced to suffer through this shitty
like he rips
play.
Up his tickets that says they can't accept gifts from someone they've officially rebuked. Like he uses the book, he's out of it, it's fine. But he's like, could you represent the police at the?
He's got 2 more tickets ready to go.
Yeah.
Fuck. So that's like the play's shit. Like he's a terrible actor, and so's his girlfriend, who's like young and beautiful and dumb as fuck. But you find little bits of information about them which are important, in that she works for like the local planning department for the council, which is quite like it's quite an important thing, because if you want to build like big big buildings or businesses or whatever, you need like them to approve it. So she's got actually quite a lot of influence in that. And there's even a line about Timothy Dalton where he's like, "Oh, if we were to bash that head in, I wonder what secrets would come tumbling out."
Every time he delivers those lines, most people are fine with it, but Angel is constantly giving him faces like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
As the audience, like, yeah, that is pretty weird what he's saying there. And yeah, and of course, he and the girl, he's a solicitor, and she works for the council, and then you've got George, the guy who owns he's like into real estate, and so all these connections start to become more and more interesting the more you think about them, sort of thing. But of course, the film subverts it.
Yeah. Oh, in the best way, the most British way possible, I think.
That's the thing. This is one of the most quintessentially British films as well that exist. There's so much in it that can't be appreciated unless you're British to a degree. Just how everybody is behaving, loads of just standard like traditions and stuff. So it's wonderful to watch as just being like you can. And it feels so at home if you have any familiarity with that sort of culture and community and stuff. It's cool.
Oh, it's so good, yeah. I think basically any part of the UK that you're from, you can identify with this sort of mentality, and even the buildings and everything look familiar. Like it's just that could be any like small town in England or Scotland or anywhere really. It's great to see. So the actor and his girlfriend are meeting up for a little liaison after the play, and they get murdered by like a guy in Grim Reaper robes. They both get stabbed to death.
And
of course,
then the affair being had there is another sort of, in a way, a red herring in terms of like, is that connected to their deaths? Is that part of what got them killed? Because he mentions interviewing the widow, and that just gets dropped. Like the Andes don't give a shit. They're just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, they're just happy to write off everything as an accident. Yeah. It's great. Like, so they get killed. I think the killer then frames it so that like he makes it look like they were killed in a car crash and like they were decapitated by something, and like their car slid off the road, and like everyone in the police department is just happy to write it off as a tragic accident, whereas Angel's like already got suspicions about how it was set up and it doesn't look right, and he knows that something else is going on here.
Yeah, you mentioned skid marks on the scene, which again is played for a joke.
Yeah,
but it's important. He said it means that the driver and the passenger made no attempt to save their own lives.
Yeah. And again, the Andes just keep joking about skid marks, and it's literally every time he says it, they keep tuttering to themselves. Like they're that fucking immature.
Oh, yeah, because he says that they're being childish. Like now's being childish. Dude, we forgot like that line where he says, "You've got a mustache from drinking the beer," and he goes, "No." It's such a simple joke, and it's so funny.
Again, Skinner shows up in his Jaguar car, like it just cruises on by, like, again, like the sneering villain who pretty much like twirls his mustache. And it's like, how did you even know that they'd been killed? And he's like, news travels fast in a small town.
Yep. And he's when he comes to their death scene, he's playing it's like Romeo and Juliet, the song from I used to know who. Is it Dire Straits? I think was a song from them.
It's a shitty pop song, isn't it?
And then he's Fire, Arthur Brown. I think the song Fire. He plays that when he's going past George's death from.
Yeah. It's all totally appropriate for what's going on.
Yeah, it feels like he's almost toying. He's like, I won't be caught. I can fuck around a little bit.
Yeah.
Because of course, you would feel like you can get away with anything in this village if you have been for as many years as they have.
Yeah, because they've been at this for a long time, so they're very good at it. So yeah, Angel's got his suspicions that there's more going on here, and I think that then leads into I'm trying to think who the next person to get murdered is. It's the property developer guy, isn't it?
Yeah, they because you get the sort of heart-to-heart moment with Nicholas Angel and Danny. You get his core motivation. He explains the battle car and everything. And I love the back and forth where he explains he got the pill car and he uses his uncle. He's like, oh, he sounds like a really good guy. And he's like, nah, he dealt drugs at the school. He goes, oh, what a cunt.
Yeah, it just switches on a dime. Yeah, because that's the first time that Angel really gets drunk, because he's been on cranberry juice the whole time. But I think Danny finally convinces him to have a few drinks, and then they get pissed. They have to escort that property guy home back to his house, which is this big, like, ostentatious mansion thing. And I love that little scene where he tries to hand, because he thinks they're taxi drivers for some reason. He hands him like a £20 note, and then like Angel takes it off him and then gives it back to the guy. And he's just like, God bless you.
Yeah, here's your change, sort of thing. Yeah, and that's something the film does by degrees, like Angel getting sort of worn down by Danny being built up by Angel, and the evil of the village as the story goes on being more and more apparent. Like, everything is done by degrees. There's no like major switches. Of course, seeing the Grim Reaper guy attack and kill them is more for us, but at the same time, like, for all the characters, everything is nice and slow in terms of how it's all developed and understood. And yeah, they put the work in, I guess is what I'm saying, in many different ways for how things change from X to Y.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's when they go back to Danny's house, which is, I love how, like, there's boxes everywhere, like, with his stuff in it, and it's like, oh, when did you move in? He's like, about 5 years ago. He's just never taken anything out. But that's when he goes into his DVD collection, and it's like this perfect, pristine room with, like, everything's alphabetical and all the rest of it, and he can just find the movies he wants immediately. It's like, that's the thing he cares about most, obviously.
Yeah. They've already been playing up all the references at that point, which, by the way, it's cool that the movie has, it's a movie that exists in the meta of movies. It's very aware of other movies. It's trying to reference and pay respect to a lot of stuff, while also just being like, hey, movies are awesome, aren't they? It's like, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
It's a real fun little celebration. And yeah, when they go into the house, they do the trope, right? The romance trope, where it's like, you've gone out for drinks, you're like, want to come in for a coffee? And he just goes, no. And he's like, oh, tea? And he goes, no. And he goes, beer? And he goes, yeah, beer, yeah, all right.
Yeah, so they are talking about, like, I think that's when you get the little bit of background about Angel and, like, what motivated him to become a police officer, and he recognizes that he's too obsessed about the job and he can't really switch off. And that's when Danny's like, well, I can help you. And again, like, the scene's played in an almost romantic way. They're like leaning in close to each other, and there's like this like soft music playing, and he's giving them this really, like, longing kind of look, and then he's like, how can I help you? Goes to his DVD collection and just brings out like Point Break and Bad Boys 2.
Bad Boys 2,
and it's like, which one do you want? And he's like, I don't know, you choose. And he's like, no, which one do you want first? So they're going to watch both of them.
Speaking of celebrating film, it's interesting because, like, obviously Michael Bay, that's not someone you'd expect Edgar Wright to be almost paying homage to some way. But if you remember, both Point Break and Bad Boys 2 are given a like in narrative reference, as in like, so the obvious one would be when Danny goes to shoot his dad and he doesn't, and he yells while he shoots in the air. It's like, that's Point Break. But when I think it's once they've defeated, it's right before they go into the pub for the pub fight with the guns, the camera spins around the two of them while focusing on them, and the whole background is flowing. It's like, that's kind of like a Michael Bay shot, and it's referencing the one that they saw when you see him go, shit just got real.
Yeah,
basically Edgar Wright is doing that shot.
Yeah, well, it's the same bit like when they've defeated Skinner at the model village right at the end, like a chopper flies over their head, and again, that's a Michael Bay kind of shot, like show a chopper, like up close, slow motion.
Yeah, it's cool. It's just like, this is Edgar Wright being like, yeah, whatever. You know, some of this stuff is really effective, like action-wise. Which, of course, you know, there's a reason people like Michael Bay's movies. Like, the guy does action.
Well, I think that's almost what he's saying. Is like, yeah, I can pick the most American of American action movie directors, like where everything, like huge budgets, like amazing over the top action. You can set up the most incredible set pieces, and it's like we are taking something like that and we're transposing it into this little rural village in England. For shots like that, and it's just it's so ludicrous but so awesome at the same time.
You definitely get that sense when you see him arrive. He sees all of the village people, the teacher, the doctor, the farmer, you know, everyone, and then they all pull out their respective guns and start firing. You're just like, what?
Did you get the 28 Days Later reference as well?
Which one's that?
Well, they're like, he's basically the gunfight near the end. He's pinned down in like a fountain in the village square. He's like, there's a woman shooting at him from like a window up high, and he's recruited like a bunch of like teenagers in hoodies to help him out. And he's just like, hey, you up there! And the camera gives that really sort of shaky, like fast-paced view as they all run into the building, and then you just see her just get yanked back out of the window and go like, ah! And it's exactly how they frame shots in 28 Days Later when the infected attack people. Like, they sped it up slightly so it makes them look more dangerous than they are. And again, I think it was just a little reference that they threw in there. Like, the kids are almost feral in his eyes.
Yeah, because again, when that happens as well, I think it like cuts to Danny quickly just enjoying it. He's just watching it. He's just like, oh my god, this is great. Because of course, yeah, that's a payoff as well. Danny wants what he thought police work was, which is like much more exciting stuff than what he's used to getting, and he gets all of that by the end, of course.
Yeah, well, he gets the whole, like, you know, have you ever like fired two guns while jumping through the air? And it's like, no, I haven't. And then they actually do all of that stuff. It's
he says never shot while doing a car chase, right? And he's like, no, and they do that by the end as well. Yeah,
they do all. The stuff they're able to work into this film, because I assume it wasn't done on a huge budget, and it looks good. Like, all of it looks well done. So I'm trying to think where we got to. Yeah, so they're watching Point Break, and it's like this little bonding scene between the two of them, and that's when the property developer dude gets murdered in his house, and the killer kind of sets everything up to look like a gas explosion in his kitchen. Like, he puts a bunch of food on and then sets the gas thing to go off with like a flame over in the corner, and just, you know, the whole house just basically explodes. And so when they're called out the next day, like, everyone's prepared to write it off as an accident, but again, Angel thinks that there's more to it than that. It's starting to look very suspicious to him, and I think that's when you then lead into the sort of village fair, which is when the next killing happens, where, you know, the local kind of news reporter approaches him and says, look, I've got an important stuff to tell you here. I need you to meet me next to the cathedral at 3:00 or whatever. But before he can meet with him, I think he's intercepted and he's forced to do like a raffle draw. Like, he's there again representing the police, so he's held up by that.
And Tim Messenger being the one who's the victim in the scene, they say right before it happens, they do the raffle. They're like, Tim Messenger, Tim, your number's up. Which is
Again, yes, the foreshadowing and everything is just so good in this. And it's all worked in so easily. Like, you could totally gloss over it if you wanted to, but it's all there. And he gets one of the most gruesome deaths out of any of the Cornetto Trilogy.
When I was watching that in the cinema, I was like, whoa, geez, like, oh. Explodes his head.
For anyone who hasn't seen it, like, so the killer pushes like a big chunk of masonry off the cathedral, like 500 foot above him, that plummets down, and it's spiky, as these Gothic cathedrals are, and it just goes right through his head, and his whole head explodes, and it is basically impaled in him. But it's the fact
into, like, his upper body,
yeah, and it's the fact that he staggers forward a few paces before he falls down. It's a proper Shaun of the Dead kind of feel to it, like really gory. So yeah, he's taken out, and again, Angel runs up to the top of the cathedral, and he's looking around trying to find clues to what happened. And I think again, everyone's trying to write it off as just, oh well, it's another accident. Nobody can sort of see what's going on here. And I think that's when he kind of puts forward his case for like why he doesn't believe this was an accident. He thinks that there's more at play here, and it's when the police sergeant, and I can't remember what his character's name is. It's the one guy played by Jim Broadbent, who's
Butterman,
like
Constable Butterman.
Yeah, no, but the
Oh wait,
Danny's father, basically.
Oh, sorry, Chief Inspector, I guess, right? Or is it? I'm assuming. I assume that's his rank. But his surname is Butterman as well. I can't remember his first name.
Yeah. Whatever his first name is, but yeah, the sort of chief inspector, he seems to take him seriously at that point. He's like, right, we all need to take statements. We need to like talk to like witnesses, interview people. And I think, Danny and Angel are left standing out in the rain, just like patrolling the area, basically, while all this is going on. Everyone's pissed off with Angel because he's making them do work, basically. The Andes fucking hate him.
If you, again, when you rewatch it, I think what's happening there is they are trying to assimilate Angel, and they're having trouble with it. Think of it like from the perspective of the village people, right? And so I think Butterman's perspective is if we give him what he wants, do a proper investigation, it pulls up nothing, maybe he'll finally let it go and we won't have to deal with it. But if you remember, like, it all comes to nothing, and then he says like, no, I'm definitely cracking it this time, I've definitely got information, and that's when they decide that he has to go. So I always find it interesting to watch that he takes it really seriously in that moment, and it surprises everybody. All the police officers are like, what? Like, why are we doing this? We never do this. And I think it's just because he's trying to make Nicholas feel like everything was done, all right? Because it's soon after he gives him the story about Sergeant Popwell and how Sergeant Popwell couldn't drop stuff. He was a city goer. He couldn't get that, like, everything's chill here and you just need to calm down and don't want to have the same fate, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm trying to remember what precipitates it, but he and Danny end up having a big argument. I think it's because again, Danny's not really taking it seriously, or he's not seeing what's going on, and Angel berates him for it. People are saying in chat as well, it's Frank is Danny's dad, Frank. Yeah. Angel berates him for just like being basically a joke and not really taking his job seriously, and Danny runs off with his monkey that he won at the fair.
I think it's become clear at that point that like nobody there is going to take him seriously, and the fact that his friend, like the only person that he's put any effort into the village, is also like, there's nothing going on, mate. Like, who cares? Like, nothing's really happening. So he's obviously really pissed, and he bites his head off a bit, and gives us the first of the two like second act low points almost. That one's the like primer. You're like, we're about to get uplifted. He's going to crack the case again, but then it all goes to shit again. But then the real story gets revealed, because of course the film keeps like surprising you. It's a bit of a roller coaster in terms of like what you think you're watching. It keeps changing.
Yeah. So I think there's another murder at this point, isn't there? Because he then goes around to the florists. I think he wants to get a peace lily for Danny as like by way of an apology for him, because it's his birthday, isn't it?
Yeah, and he didn't tell him because he was focusing on the work or whatever. And
Yeah.
I think that's another important sort of notch in his character development, because he feels genuinely sad that he didn't get to, celebrate it with him. And if you remember, when he's telling Danny about how he fucked up his relationship with his girlfriend, he says, "Oh, I missed a few parties," and Danny's like, "Oh yeah, it's not so bad." And he goes, "I missed your dad's funeral," and Danny goes, "Oh," like, yeah, he obviously, because that's the thing. It's just like, you just got to be real at that point. It's like, do you actually care about this person if you don't even turn up for that stuff? So of course, I think he doesn't want to lose the relationship he's got with Danny at that point. So he's like, "No, I'm gonna work at it. I'm gonna get that peace lily. I'm gonna get him a gift." And he even says, like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "Personal matter." Like he's doing it in this normal operation, but now he's adopted personal stuff into like something he gives a shit about, and it's really good at showing how he's moving on.
Yeah, yeah. I also love the scene, and I think it might have happened before now, when they're sitting there eating their cornettos in the police car, and I think Angel gets a revelation about there being more than one killer at work. And he's just like, "Get us to the police station now!" And Danny just shoves the cornetto into his mouth and immediately gets brain freeze. Ah! Again, it's just really simple stuff, but like Nick Frost just plays it so well.
Both of them in all three movies play completely different characters again and again. They all nail them, and it's the kind of thing where I'm like, God, I wish that team of Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost made more stuff. But then again, I'm like, I wonder if maybe we should just appreciate what we have, instead of, because I feel like what we end up with is stuff like Star Wars, where we start asking for more and more and more. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, say you took a guy like Edgar Wright with that feel for pacing and smart, intelligent screenwriting, and just put him in charge of a big franchise. Like, got him to do a Marvel movie, or you got him to do, a DC movie or something like that. Like franchises that are kind of in need of a bit of help.
I'm assuming you know about Ant-Man, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was that like broke that up and caused them to move on. Was it just like creative differences, they said?
I mean, the story goes that it's like he would have wanted XYZ and the studio were like, nah, too risky or whatever. And it's such a shame, because we've got obviously Taika Waititi and the Russo brothers, and at one point Joss Whedon, like different creators trying to offer.
Before he became a creepy asshole.
Yeah, and so like we've got all these different voices in there now, and we're kind of we're still kind of in a worrisome position with the Marvel movies. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, it would have been really awesome to have Edgar Wright in there, because obviously Sam Raimi is joining them now. If we can get some more creators that are just not quite going to be on the production line, if you will, I think Edgar Wright would have been perfect. So, but you watch Ant-Man and you're like, oh my god, Ant-Man is one of the sort of superhero movies that you don't remember it really, because it's so typical. It's like, and it is surprising or amazing, but there's some stuff in it that I think is pretty good, and a lot of people watch it, they're like, was that Edgar Wright that did this part of this movie? I wonder.
I mean, the scenes where it's like Ant-Man's friend, basically, who's like, he seems like a low-level criminal, but he's got like hobbies, like he goes to art galleries and he goes to wine tasting sessions, like really sophisticated stuff. And like whenever he's relating it, I'm like, that feels like an Edgar Wright type edit.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to see his description of how things went down, and like how it relates to their current situation, and you just think, God damn, like Ant-Man, it's the kind of movie, if you're going to take a risk within the MCU, that's the perfect one to do it with, because
100%.
no one gives a fuck about Ant-Man, really.
Mm-hmm.
So like if it flopped as a movie, it doesn't matter. And so it would have been the ideal one to just like, get this quirky British director in with a different sort of style and a different sense of humor, and just turn him loose, see what comes out of it.
Ant-Man and the Wasp was the exact same thing. I watched Ant-Man and the Wasp in the cinema, and that fact escapes me regularly. I'm like, did I? I don't even remember it anymore. Like, what was Ant-Man and the Wasp about? It was like quantum stuff. Like, it's.
I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp was shit. Like, it was a low point in the MCU for me, because it's like Ant-Man becomes like a secondary character in his own film.
Yeah. The only reason I don't remember to say it's shit or not is I don't remember it really well at all. Like, I know that stuff happens in it. I remember the trailer more than I remember the film at this point. Yeah, it was such a was such a Blair movie, and it's funny because that and Captain Marvel were both sort of the movies surrounding the Infinity War Endgame sort of stuff. It's just like both of them were so shit. It's unbelievable.
I mean, I would rather watch Ant-Man and the Wasp over Captain Marvel any day of the week, but yeah, again, it just felt like a vehicle for like Scott became like a like I say, a secondary character in his own film, and it was all about the relationship between Michael Douglas and Kim Basinger, and
Kate Beckin. No, what is her name? Kate something, isn't it? Because Kim.
Well, his daughter
is the girl in Batman.
Fuck, who am I thinking of? Like the woman who was trapped in the quantum realm, and it was his wife.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah. Sorry, I keep getting Michelle Pfeiffer and Kim Basinger mixed up for some reason. They were like very much of that era.
Yeah.
But no, sorry. Yeah. So it kind of felt like she was like almost the centerpiece of the film, and it was all about bringing her back and finding a way to save her. And it's like, you're doing your character a disservice here.
I agree. I'd have to watch it again to be more specific, because I honestly, like I said, I can't really remember it.
But no. Anyway, we got sidetracked there a little bit. So Angel goes to the local garden center to get like a peace lily for Danny, and like that's when the owner of it kind of explains more information that's going to be relevant quite shortly. I
love even that when she's talking, the camera just keeps showing him, and he's like doing the O face over again. He's like, what? Because the stuff she's saying puts everything into place, and she's saying it very casually. And then once he's figured it all out, he needs like to write it down or whatever. He cuts her off when she's about to say, well, as for Cousin Sissy, he can go and fuck it. And she and she just smiles. She's like, oh, what?
It's whenever she talks about someone who's died as well, it's like she always says, God rest her soul.
Yeah.
Or God rest his soul, because there's so many at this point. But yeah, so
all the older actors in this movie, they all did fucking great. Like all of them playing these sort of country types with
they look like the kind of people that you would find in places like that. I mean, it's hard to describe, but they've just got that homely kind of look about them. They don't look like actors; they just look like regular people. And I love that about this film, especially when they start like dual wielding handguns and stuff for like a big epic gunfight.
Oh, dude, the teacher doing that's classic. She looks hilarious doing it.
Or riding on the bike.
Yeah. She's got like such an aggressive face on and akimbo, and then she gets fucking knocked, like does a 360 flip and slams into the ground. It's like, oh.
I think my favorite is the priest when he tries to talk Angel down, and it's like, you might not be a man of God, but surely you're a man of peace. Yeah. And Angel's like, no, we're going to have to take you in anyway. And he's like, oh, fuck off then. Brings out his gun and starts shooting at them.
I remember one of the biggest laughs in the cinema was when he shoots him and he falls over and goes, Jesus Christ. Oh, it's wonderful.
I think one of my favorite bits is when they shoot the doctor in the foot. Like it's Danny who does it. He drops his shotgun and it blasts his foot apart, and he's like lying on the ground like screaming, and it's like Angel just goes, "You're a doctor, deal with it." And then Danny just chimes in with, "Yeah, motherfucker."
Do you remember the way they talk? Because that's actually a repetition of when he obviously shot him in the leg with the air rifle. Yeah, and Simon Pegg is like, he's a doctor, he can deal with it. And this time he's like, you're a doctor, deal with it. But also the way Danny delivers some of the lines, or of course Nick Frost. Do you remember when he's like, do you want another cranberry juice or whatever? And he's like, no, I'll have a beer this time. And he starts pouring for him, and Danny goes, yeah, Roy.
Yeah.
Some of the deliveries, if they're so authentic, they come across.
Oh yeah. I love the bit as well, that like the little reference to Shaun of the Dead when they've got to take a shortcut through like the gardens, and Angel just leaps really nimbly over all these fences, and fucking Danny tries to follow. It's just the half-hearted stumble straight into.
I'll do this the second fence he crosses, and he just goes, just like. They do. That's one of the references. One of the references is when he puts the DVDs down. You can see Shaun of the Dead is in the selection when they're chasing the shoplifter, and then you've got the doodle-doodle-doodle-doodle, so the sounds of the sort of slot machine thing that they've got in the bar turns up as well.
Oh yeah, the Winchester. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, the references are incredible. Like it's never intrusive, but it's just
no, they're all
it's there.
respectful.
Like if you want to spot it, it's just like so good. But yeah, so the woman gets the florist gets murdered, and Angel gives chase to this guy who just is unstoppable. Like he's he can outrun Angel, who's like super fit and like he's an expert in like pursuit. And I just love the bit where he turns into an alleyway and like the camera pans in right close on his face and he's like, mothers. And it's
wait. You're comboing up when he chases the shoplifter and when he chases the Reaper guy, right?
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah.
I guess we skipped over that part where he chases the shoplifter.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say what's cool about that is if you remember when he's teaching Danny to like, be more aware. He says, like, why is this old dude got the big coat on? And he's just like, oh, he's cold or whatever. It's like, nah, that guy turns out he's housing a bloody shotgun under there, or I can't remember what gun he has, but that's like the payoff. And he's like, why has this guy got his hat down? He's like, oh, because he's fuck ugly. It's like that's the guy who ends up shoplifting. He's trying to cover his face. And like the point of the scene is to be like, hey, Danny, look out for stuff. Be a better police officer. And then there's a whole bunch of jokes sort of in there, but it also turns out that all these things they're commenting on are going to be relevant later.
Yeah. You've even got the Hound from Game of Thrones.
Oh yes,
he's just like, you would never know. You would never know that was him. Like to see him like, with no hair and clean shaven and stuff, and yarp. And again, like, sorry for jumping around a little bit. I just love when Skinner's on the radio to him, and it's like, have you taken care of Nicholas Angel? And he's like, yarp. And then it's like, so he's not going to be a problem then? And you just hear like there's a beat where he pauses trying to think what to say, and he's like, narp.
Narp. He's just like, excellent. And it's like, oh.
So yeah, he gives chase to this killer, and he's not able to catch the guy. Like the guy escapes, and he's in the police station afterwards. And I think this is where he basically loses his shit with everybody because the Andes are still trying to like claim that it's like an accident. She fell on like her garden shears and impaled herself through her neck. And Angel's like, I fucking like was chasing the guy who did it. I saw it with my own eyes, you dicks.
Innocent people don't run.
Yeah.
Murder, murder, murder. Change the fucking record. Oh,
oh man. So that's when he's basically he's kind of burned his bridges with everyone in the police department. And I think that's all of the murders for the time being. I'm trying to think what's the next thing then.
Basically, he gives up. He's like, yeah, I guess, because like I think they do the whole plan to try and piece everything together, but it just doesn't work out. And he goes on like a bit of a slump. If you remember, he's having his meal, and she's like, "Oh, what happened with Leslie Tiller then?" And he's like, "She tripped and fell on her own shears."
Yeah,
Like he's like given up.
So that's like, again, it's a low point in the story. And it's that when he then kind of begins to piece together the clues in the newspapers.
Yeah,
that's when he thinks he's found the connection that binds all of these victims together. And in his mind, it's, man, I'm trying to explain in a quick way what it is, but they're all related to like a big like road development that's going to happen that's going to take it close to this town. Like there's going to be a big highway coming through nearby, and this property developer who got his house blown up, he was buying up a bunch of land because he was planning to build like a big shopping mall that was going to make him loads of money, and it would have put Skinner's supermarket out of business. So like in Angel's mind, that's like the perfect motive for doing all of this. He believes that Yeah, he believes Skinner is the perpetrator of this because he's trying to protect his business, and so he was killing everyone who was associated with this development. And so he marches into like his supermarket and presents him with all this evidence, and you get this great kind of montage of like all the different people that he's murdered. Even like, you know, going down to the property guy with like the how they faked it to make his house explode, and he's like, you did it with the judicial application of bacon and beans, and you get like a little montage of that.
And he's like, because with the running away, like utilizing your history as a fun runner, like everything lines up. But what's interesting about it is, first of all, he's right that these people are killing people, but his whole, what he came up with isn't what it is. Like it actually isn't. Because of course Timothy Dalton's got footage of himself at the Summerfield or whatever, so he's got his alibi.
Yeah, fucking Summerfield of all places. Yeah, so he's got a cast iron alibi, and he, you know, the investigation can't go anywhere else. Basically, like Angel's been totally discredited from this, and I think he goes back to his hotel, and that's when he gets attacked by.
So everything goes to normalcy, but then he realizes that everything still makes sense if there's more than one killer.
Oh, so, right. Yeah, that's when he does it.
Yeah, that's what he wants to present to Frank, and Frank says, sleep on it, and then we'll do it. And that's because Frank is like, it's too late for Angel, we got to kill him. Like, he keeps looking into it.
So, yeah, that's when Skinner sends round, well, they call him Lurch, to take him out. And, you know, they have a bit of a fight scene there, and I think Angel distracts him with the monkey that he won at the fairground. Again, just a callback. You know, the guy loves it, and knocks him out. And that's when he finds out that there's going to be a big meeting at the local graveyard or abbey or something like that. Yeah,
because I even remember thinking when I was watching it recently, and I was like, where do they meet? Like, where is this place? And they do mention the swan escaped from the castle, and the castle is where they're having their meeting as well. It's just a big castle, I guess.
Yeah, it's a kind of like a ruined place, and it's got like crypts and stuff underneath it. So he
it's so wonderfully done in terms of like a culty type thing, because again, with the juxtaposition in this movie, dude, I love it. It's the You've got all these humble like village people, and then you see this shot of all of them in these cloaks going cumule, 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 and then again, so it brings you from that assumption into this one. You're like, whoa! And then as soon as the chanting's over, he goes, Janet Barker's had twins.
Yeah, like, the christening's going to be on Tuesday, and we're all invited. And yeah,
oh, it's so good. Because I think I did look into it, like they're chanting something like for the greater good in Latin, I think it is.
Oh, brilliant. God damn, that attention to detail. But yeah, like...
Of course, they'd have to be a little bit brainwashed, right? Because what they're doing is horrible, so they have to convince their members, like, this is for the greater good. Legitimately, this will make everything better, ultimately.
Yeah, yeah. But they're fully bought into it. And, you know, Angel shows up, and he tries to arrest them, and he kind of presents them with his understanding of why they've done all of this, and that's when Skinner just gives like it's the best revelation and the best like subversion of your expectations I think I've ever seen, where Skinner's just like, yeah, no, we just did this because, like in the case of the actor guy, not because he was a lawyer or like a property developer. It's like, yeah, it's just because he was a terrible actor.
It's terrible. You know? They say like the arts are a feather in our cap, and we have two experts waiting in the wings, and they repeat what they said earlier, which was like, oh, he was an extra on Straw Dogs, and she was a cadaver. They say that word for word again to him during this cult discussion, and they like smile. And
the two of them actually wave. Yeah, they're like, yeah. She was a cadaver in prime suspect.
That's the thing. We, like Angel, we're just like, what the fuck? You guys are explaining all of this like it's so normal. Like what you've done is so normal.
They killed the property developer just because his house was too big and too too
ugly. They didn't like it.
It wasn't in keeping with the village's rustic aesthetic.
They there's a little line drop to sort of plant that in you. And if you remember when they're looking at the shoplifter on the camera, he says, Angel says, "You should be paying less attention to me and more attention to him." And he points the camera, and Timothy Dalton goes, "Ah, it's George Merchant, the local something like fridge magnate or something like that." And Angel's like, no, the shoplifter. And he goes, "Oh." And like right at the end of him describing George Merchant, he says he built that monstrosity on blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, really small little bit. And it's just a mistake. He didn't think he was talking about him, but it's just like, that'll give you a little bit of something to think about. Because this is the thing, if I was to see a brand new Edgar Wright movie with these two, I would be like, every single thing that's on screen and said is going to be important. Like, there's a reason we heard anything we did. And I love it when movies do that.
And you know what's impressive as well? This came out not that long after Shaun of the Dead. Like, Shaun of the Dead was 2005. This was 2007. So, like, pretty much your standard development time for a movie. So unless they had this script kind of worked out in advance, like they put it together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But to make a script that was this smart and this tight and this well constructed, like, that is impressive in such a short space of time.
Yeah, man, absolutely. The discipline Edgar Wright would have had, because this is the thing, you can see his sort of approach in all three of the Cornetto movies in terms of all the similarities for filmmaking, including how incredibly tight the scripts are and how much effort he puts into making the scripts sort of reflect themselves as they progress. Everything is relevant. Everything, like, there's lots of repetition, but in a good way. Like I forget if there's a term for it, but just like repeated elements, if it's visuals or lines or whatever, just to maintain certain ideas in the viewer. It's really excellent.
Yeah, I mean, Shaun of the Dead kicked off that idea of, like, a recurring line or whatever, but put in a different context, so it suddenly becomes, it gets given a different meaning. I think, what was the one that you got from Ed in Shaun of the Dead, where it was like he's like, "I'm sorry, Sean," and then, like, he's obviously done a fart, and you hear Sean go like, "Oh, that's disgusting." He's like, "Well, I'll stop doing them when you stop laughing." But that same line gets recycled, like, right at the end, where Ed's dying. Basically, he's been bitten by a zombie, and it suddenly becomes a really poignant line because he's saying goodbye to his friend.
Yeah,
and I just love that recontextualization of something that should be kind of funny, like, into a new meaning.
It's someone just said in chat, "You got red on you." Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah. So, yeah, you get the whole justification for all of this is basically that all of these people that they murdered were just bringing down the reputation of the village because they are determined to win Village of the Year, and that's when Frank shows up. And Angel thinks that he's going to help him out, but he's in on it, obviously, and he explains that his wife was like the fuck, I can't believe I'm saying this. She was on, like, the village planning committee to make Sanford, like, the best village in the county or whatever. And a bunch of traveling gypsies showed up, like, the night before and ruined their reputation, and that drove her insane, so she killed herself. And he's been on a quest for revenge ever since.
Well, not revenge. He's on a quest to make the village what she wanted, right?
Yeah, like purification almost. So, like, he removes any element that could be seen as a detrimental to the village. So whether it's the living statue or the kids with the hoodies, or just anyone who's, like, an asshole, basically.
Yeah. I also say, especially watching it this time, the line hit me a little bit differently in terms of what they're going for in the film. But when he says about her with the committee and everything she did for it, and her ultimately taking her life because it didn't work out the way she wanted, he says, like, "I've never seen such hard work and dedication." It's like, is this a point about how, like, what work can do to you? Like, it can consume you, and it can lead you to really, like, because obviously our protagonist is entirely consumed by his work. He's a hard worker, absolutely committed to doing everything the right way. And of course, this lady that has started off all of this disaster in this place, that's her history. She was a really, really hard worker. And I was just like, interesting. Okay.
No, I never looked at it in that context, actually. So yeah, just like defining yourself entirely by your work is a inherently unhealthy thing, because, like, if things don't pan out for you, like, you're just going to be lost.
Almost like Simon Pegg and this woman got their value in life from being good at their job. And if you remember, his, like, absolute low point is when he's unable to commit to justice through his job. Like he thinks it seems to me like he's the most depressed and broken when the law isn't able to do what he thinks it should be able to do. And so it's just like, yeah, you need to have a careful balance with that sort of thing.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Actually, I didn't kind of look at that in that sort of context. But yeah, Angel tries to make a run for it, I think, when he's confronted with all this, because he knows that he can't take them all out by himself.
Yeah.
And he runs into Danny, who knifes him right in the. I didn't mention this actually because it was like a tiny little scene, but like, yeah, Danny knifes him in the chest, and it looks like he's been killed, and it's a throwback to earlier on when they're just out having some drinks, and I love how unexpected this is. Like Danny's like, "Oh, have you seen this?" And he just fucking puts a fork right into his eye, but it's like he's got like a ketchup sachet, so it's like squirting out.
It's really great shock humor. It's you just never see it coming, and then it turns out it's incredibly important for a plot point later.
Yeah, again, just like things that were set up, and they absolutely have a payoff. So, you think Angel's been killed or whatever, and like Danny's driving him out to bury his body, and then he wakes up, or he gets out the trunk of the car that he's been put in. Obviously you find out it was a fake. He was just wearing like a ketchup pack to make it look like he'd been stabbed. And that's when Danny's like, "Look, you need to get out of here. You need to go back to London," as he says it.
London.
Yeah, like it's a total like League of Gentlemen kind of thing.
Yeah,
where they can't pronounce these places. And he's like, "Yeah, forget it, Nick. It's Sanford." It's a Chinatown reference, obviously. But yeah, so he's prepared to bail out of there and escape. So he heads off in the car, and it's only when he stops off at a petrol station and he sees like Point Break on the DVD rack that he's like, "No, I need to go back and sort this out."
Yeah.
And that's when he heads back, and that's when you get that great scene of like him taking out the farmer guy and his mum, just like again, just like hardcore action out of nowhere, like fly kicking an old woman right in the face.
And it's so exciting stuff, like that whole scene, the soundtrack, all of the editing, and just how much we're on his team. We want him to beat all of these people that we've learned about throughout the whole movie.
Yeah,
like, we're so ready for him to just fucking annihilate them, and he does.
And he goes into like the police station. He recovers all the guns that he's impounded there.
Nobody notices because no one gives a shit.
Yeah, no one's paying attention, and you just see him riding through the street like a proper Western.
Yeah, and even, obviously the two shotguns on his back, I think, are obviously to note like angel wings, but in the form of guns, being he's going to come and save the day sort of thing. It's just like, at that point in the film, because again, the pacing's so well, you're just like, you're so ready for just unfiltered, full-on action, and you get it like for a really long amount of time too.
Yeah, because he's always tried to do things by the book, and like everything he's done has been all about paperwork and procedure and everything. And this is him realizing, like, I'm going to just have to take these people out.
Yeah.
And it's going to have to be done with gunfire and action and all the rest of it. And he's 100% up for it. And it's great because, again, it's just a crazy gunfight going on in this little picturesque English village, and it's so ludicrous but so awesome at the same time.
I suppose that's a part of the movie's message to a degree there as well. Like we were talking earlier about how there's applications of the law that aren't as efficient or at least relevant in certain parts of the country in terms of how things work. Because of course, a lot of the alcohol laws aren't just tied to like personal health or protection for children from being fed too much alcohol, but also just don't be, it'll lead to more potential disasters in terms of like people doing things while drunk and stuff, but the villages can take care of each other and stuff. So really, if that were true, surely the reverse is true, in that there are some things that are illegal that we should do for the greater good. This, of course, what he does to them at the end of that movie is exactly probably in line with the law, like just to assault an entire village with his guns. But of course, it's the thing that's probably going to get the best and quickest result in terms of stopping them, providing justice. And I think that's definitely a part of him breaking, because of course he grabs the shades, which is absolutely him being like, "I'm going to be an action star now." Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing, like how it's played. People in chat were asking me what I'm drinking. Just for reference, it's Woodford Reserve. It's damn fine bourbon, actually. I've upgraded my tastes from Jack Daniels because I got a little bit more money now, a tiny little bit more, so splash out.
Feels bad, man. I'm just drinking vodka.
Oh wow! Do you mix it or do you just have it neat?
I usually have it mixed. Yeah, I don't. Not that I can't do it neat, but I just prefer it mixed. So I can drink it slower and easier, and maybe in more amounts actually at a time. But
no, fair play, dude. Yeah, so there's a very intense shootout here that I don't think I need to describe every bit of it, but he basically takes on all the local residents, and I believe Danny helps him out pretty quickly. They manage to make their way into the local pub where they take out the owners there. And that's when the rest of the police show up because they're led by Frank, who's been, they're trying to arrest them basically. And Angel's able to kind of talk them round and explain, like, we're not vigilantes here. This is us applying the law. Like none of this stuff that's been happening in this village is what you think. It's a complete sham.
Yeah, they've been lying to you. They've been manipulating you, and of course, he says, "Why do you think the crime rate's so low and the accident rate's so high?"
Yeah, and the penny finally drops, and that's when Frank makes a run for it, and they have to like fight their way through the rest of the village with the cops on their side, and I just love the assault on the supermarket. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah,
where you've got the guys behind the meat counter who are just hurling meat cleavers at them, and Angel's like, "What's the situation?" And one of the Andes is just like, 2 blokes and a fuckload of cutlery.
Yeah. Again, it's also absurd. The part that always fucking makes me laugh my ass off is when the supermarket scene is ending, and he says, like, Danny and himself are going to go and chase Skinner. You guys hold down the supermarket, and there's these students or like younger people who are throwing fruit at them, and they say they shout "fruit attack" before they do it, and fucking the sergeant just starts shooting a shotgun.
Yeah, it feels a bit mismatched, doesn't it?
Jesus Christ, kids, get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the girl who works at the supermarket as well. Like Skinner's assistant comes running at them with a knife.
Yeah.
And Olivia, I can't remember what her surname is. Yeah, she just like whacks her with a stop sign, like knocks her out, and she's like, nothing like a bit of girl on girl action, and everyone gets a good laugh out of it. And I love how one of the Andes gets hit by like a meat cleaver hits like a big jar of bolognese sauce next to him. And it looks like he's been, hit right in the face. And they're all like, "Oh no, Andy!" He's like, "Don't worry, it's just bolognese sauce." Oh man, there's so many great lines in it. Same with like when he's like, "Angel, don't you go being a twat now."
I wouldn't give you the satisfaction or something like that. It's really, again, 2 hours, and there's so much going on because you get so much satisfaction out of the fact that these guys were such a dicks to him throughout the whole movie. Now they're all on the same team and working for a goal we're all invested in. It's like, it's such a good job.
Yeah. So they I think it leads to basically a car chase where they go after Frank and Skinner, and it leads to like a fight at like the local model village. So it's like Godzilla fighting like amongst the city kind of thing. I
think it's pretty clear as well. It's like they're fighting over the village, aren't they? The two of them for control.
Yeah, 100%. And it ends with Skinner getting impaled on a fucking cathedral spire, which is just like, it's so gory.
It is, yeah.
And it doesn't kill him. It's just like it's there jutting through his fucking mouth, and he's like, "Oh, this really hurts."
Yeah, I think you almost assume like, "Oh, he's dead," and then he's just like, "Oh." Like, oh god.
And I just love as well that the fucking swan ends up saving the day because Frank tries to make a run for it in the police car, and the swan just comes up out the back seat and like. You don't even need to see what happens. You just see the car like go careening across this field and straight into a tree.
Yeah, man, it is absolutely like the amount we've talked about in terms of just stuff that happens. We've either talked about a setup and then how it pays off, or a payoff, and we're like, oh, remember how that was? It's like unreal how much there is in this movie.
Oh, and we there's so many
constantly,
things we probably glossed over or missed or whatever. Like
yeah,
it's so smart. It's so well constructed.
right, and you just get rewarded for remembering things, which is a lot of things rely on the opposite these days. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
Try to ignore. You'll be right.
yeah. And so, like we were talking about earlier, you get this scene in the police station afterwards where everyone's kind of come around to Angel's side. They're doing all their paperwork to process all the people that have been involved in this conspiracy. I think that someone even throws a bin at his fucking head, like just like they did with Danny. And
yeah, it's obviously to show that he's a part of them now.
Yeah, and the bloody neighborhood watch guy comes out and tries to like take him out, and that's when he kicks him into the room with the sea mine, which like rolls over, and like the I guess the spike thing that arms it goes in.
Oh no!
Oh god! And the whole building fucking detonates. Like the whole thing's destroyed.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Like, I love Hot Fuzz. I think it's one of the best movies in the world. But the idea that it blew up the entire building, but all of them survived, like, that's interesting. Like, I don't understand how that works.
It's 100% out of like every cliched action movie ever. Like, because there's like, you know, it's just rubble everywhere, but everyone's kind of like carefully positioned on top of it, you know, just like
and they've all got their like almost cartoonish. All their clothing is burnt and covered in like black soot, but they're all relatively okay, except for of course Danny, who this is the one criticism that might be quite a hot take actually. I've always felt that I think the movie would have worked just a little bit better if they'd actually killed him. I know that it would be sad. But they also bait his death. I don't know, like, I wasn't sure how I felt about that because I was just like, I would have wanted to commit to it or not. But I think you could have had it so that his death really pushes Angel to be like, you don't quite realize exactly what it is about the commitment to work versus friendship until you've lost it, in terms of like, he really, like, Danny was the first person that he really got through to him as a friend. And so now that he's gone, he now knows exactly what it means to value friendships, because they're not there forever. People aren't there forever. The work will always be there, and the balance is important. I thought that that like it really could have worked, and I wasn't sure how I felt about like being like, "Yep, Danny died." Oh no, he didn't. He's just off screen. I was like, "Oh, okay." I don't know.
Yeah, it's there to like play that little prank on you, thinking he's dead, and then he appears at the graveyard, kind of thing. And yeah, I agree. I think it would have given it an air, like much more poignancy and much more meaning for Angel to have done what he did. I think it would have perhaps gone against the tone of the film a little bit, because when you break it down, like none of the bad guys get killed. They get imprisoned for what they did, but none of them really get killed, and it's the same with the good guys. And I think maybe it would have introduced a heavy dramatic tone to a film that was pretty lighthearted otherwise.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying like, it would be a bit tragic, wouldn't it? It's like, because even in Shaun of the Dead, Ed dies, but they kind of play it off as fun by the end of the movie. And so I get it. Maybe tonally it wouldn't have worked, but they definitely play with it in the movie. Like, he's crying over, you know, fucking his bloodied body after an explosion, and then they show a graveyard. Like, for a moment there, Edgar Wright is telling you, yeah, Danny died, and you're like, Jesus Christ, he did? And then they show Butterman on the gravestone, but then it turns out it's his mom. You're like, oh, okay. So like, it was in the film for a moment there, guys. I'm not saying like, I don't think it would be impossible for it to work. I think it could. I just I don't know. That's simply a preference. I think it works just fine the way it is. I just I think the arc, I don't know, adds a layer to it where that friend that brought him out of the whole work-only ethic ended up dying, specifically because as well that he would have pushed him so hard to be a better officer and to make, you know, this village meet justice as it should. So yeah, there's just a lot to go over there, and I think both versions would work. That's just what I think I would have wanted.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of inclined to agree. I think it would have made it it would have elevated the movie slightly in terms of the stakes and the meaning behind it. And it probably would have been a better product overall. I'm kind of glad they didn't, though.
Yeah, tonally, it's much more chill. And if you remember, the film ends with them both being like, oh, there's someone's doing some like basic crime or whatever. They're like, let's go, partner. Like, they're just like, yeah, they charge it all up and they get going. It's like, yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and notice how they're in a much more like aggressive looking police car. Like it's much more kind of souped up than the stuff they were cruising around in otherwise. Like because it's almost like they've requisitioned that for like what they do, just because they feel like they want it, and it's like more action packed. It's like, oh, okay, so they've kind of they ultimately they've both found that balance, I guess, in what they do. Like
Yeah.
Angel has become a little bit more laid back, and he's able to see the lighter side of life and have a bit of fun with what he does. Whereas Danny has taken his job more seriously now, and he's more committed to what he does. So, like ultimately, they've all grown from their experiences, and yeah, they've found that progression that you would look for in characters like this. And damn, like, yeah, and damn, what an enjoyable like experience it is to watch them go through this for 2 hours. Like this movie. Like I said to you before, you know, I've seen it quite a few times, but like rewatching it for this stream, I was just like, yeah, I feel like I'm watching it for the first time. I'm just really having fun with it. There's like so many little details that you could miss the first time around. It's just a damned well put together, fun, exciting, funny movie. You know, it's got everything really.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best movies ever made. It's phenomenal. Every single aspect, I have something to praise about it. So I just rarely get them, and it's so weird. It's like it's not a lot of the time when you speak of movies like that, you're thinking of like stuff that's much older usually. But it's like this is 2007. It feels weird that it's like just 2007 movie. It's one of the best ones I've ever seen. It just popped out. But then again, the whole Cornetto trilogy is something to celebrate, and we kind of talked about it. But it's like you don't really get this kind of movie anymore. It feels like we're very missing on this one. I guess how to put it, like the nature of the film being so accessible to literally everybody, and it's clearly just trying to have fun. It wants to make you laugh and you know, experience a bit of awe with how crazy all of it is.
I think it demonstrates a what I would say is like good natured passion for the medium. Like the Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg, and you know they really have respect for the action genre. They understand the conventions of it. They understand some of the tropes that go with it, and they're happy to play to that. But they're happy to move it into this like comedy setting, but never to the point where it's just it mocks everything that comes before it. It's not trying to be like smug and self-reverent and you know. It's, I guess, subverting your expectations at every turn. Like it's not constantly trying to prove itself to you and have a laugh at the expense of action movies. It's a respectful kind of homage to it, and I think that's what you don't get so much nowadays.
Yeah, unfortunate, but you know, this is why we do this. We celebrate them. We go like, go check them out. Go rewatch Hot Fuzz. Good shit.
Yeah, 100%. This is again, this is kind of why I enjoy doing these streams, where it's like we can talk about these movies that were really well put together and we're done with like real passion and you know appreciation for the genre, you know, and that's kind of what the Cornetto trilogy really is. You know, the Shaun of the Dead is obviously a homage to the zombie genre. It has a bit of fun with some of the tropes of it, but it's just, you know, it also delivers on the dramatic moments. Same with Hot Fuzz, and you know, World's Ends. Like it plays on this funny plot of like alien invasion and a bunch of guys like trying to combat it by going on a drinking spree.
Mm-hmm.
But damn, it's got some heavy moments, like a real drama when you find out the history of Simon Pegg's character and that kind of that loss of optimism that you kind of have, I guess, when you grow up and you don't just have this big adventure stretching before you anymore as life. You actually have to live it and you have to find your place in it. Like it deals with some quite interesting ideas.
Yeah, he's in like it goes like they reveal he's in AA and he can't deal with it. He's like his life is completely broken and he desperately just wants to complete the pub crawl because he feels like it'll just give him something he needs, sort of thing. Yeah, the movie definitely gets a little deep on you.
Well, I mean, how many people like we've probably all known folk like that who, you know, they peaked in high school almost, like that was their glory days, You know, when they were super popular, they were the coolest guy in their year. You know, they were going out like partying all the time. And that stuff's awesome, but then eventually you kind of have to move on to something else as you get older and you grow up. And you know, some of them don't always move on from that, and they're kind of stuck in the past. And damn, it really it hits home with that sort of thing. How people can go off the rails if they peak too soon in their lives, or they don't recognize how you have to change as you get older.
Yeah, man, and I think there's probably something of a through line there with the three films about maybe life lessons. Because of course, Sean's whole thing is he's kind of just in Shaun of the Dead. His life is passing before his eyes, sort of thing. He's like in a dead end job. He goes to the pub every day and just sort of chills with a friend of his who he essentially lets freeload in his house. He doesn't really have any goals. You know, like all three movies are probably trying to say something about how we view our lives and how we should just avoid pitfalls in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, very much so. And credit to them for never falling back onto a predictable pattern. You know, it's not like Nick Frost and Simon Pegg are always playing the same characters each time around. It's always very different in every movie. And I think that speaks well to them and their understanding of how you can very easily fall into a pattern with all this stuff that people just find predictable and tiresome. And they never do it. And that's a smart way of playing it. Each of these movies is kind of distinct. It tells its own story. None of them connected in any way, but there's definitely a kind of a through line in terms of the tone and the message that they're trying to get across. So
yeah, and I fully recommend all three. Have fun, have some drinks, have some friends. They get a laugh a minute ratio, like it's pretty strong in all three of them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for it, you know, to watch a movie that you've seen before and you know where the gags are, you know what's coming, but still be able to laugh at them. I mean, that's a rare thing, and absolutely got that with this. But yeah, I mean, we've got obviously quite a few super chats here. I don't know if you've got time to go through them. And
absolutely, let's do it.
All right, nice one. All right, let's see what we got. This is where my face goes like super white because you can't put dark mode on when you're on studio, which is annoying.
I think you might be able to get an extension for it. I don't think it's built in though. Yeah. Maybe we can look into that after the stream. See if I can find you something to use.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it is annoying. It's blinding. These days, everywhere needs dark mode. We've come too far now. Okay, technology's come too far to allow light mode.
Everyone knows dark mode's the coolest. Right, Neil Brideau gave me $5 Canadian just as a super chat, so thank you very much, my friend. Chucksenhausen says, how legendary would it be if there was a sequel to Hot Fuzz, but in this version, it's Simon and Nick being the trainers, with the new recruit they take under their wing being Hawk from Cobra Kai. That would indeed be legendary. I'd love to see a crossover with Cobra Kai and Hot Fuzz. I don't imagine it will happen, but man, the mind boggles. Silo 101 says, Drinker, you so handsome. Thanks. We know that's a lie, though. Denzel Kanu says, question from MauLer. When will you do our Unbridled Rage for Terminator Genesis?
Oh, there's a thing. So many projects in the pipeline for different things. Right now I'm on The Boys season 2. That'll happen eventually. It's going to be a big old video. But those are the types of projects, the ones like Terminator Genesis and, Dark Fate. And there's a couple of others that I'm just like, yeah, they're going to have their time. I don't know when it's going to be, but they're going to have their time. Luckily, there's no real, like, urgency, because it's been a while since they've come out now, and I can just get it done at some point. But it's just so many other things I want to talk about as well. But it will happen. Nothing
escapes the long.
No.
Dominic the Donkey says, hail Drinker and the Longman. Hope you two have a great day. Also, handsome Drinker Cam. Nice. Stop it! I'm going to get a beamer. Nick B says, you want to be a big cop in a small town? Fuck off up to the model village. That was a great line.
Yeah.
Thanks for the stream. James Moore says, "Wow, MauLer, I can't believe you didn't invite Metal to your stream to talk about his favorite movie." Oh, hi, drinker.
He's not available as far as I know. He is over. I think he's either having friends over or he's over a friend's house. But yeah, I'm sure he would have loved to have talked about how amazing Hot Fuzz is. But yeah, not everyone can make it everywhere, I'm afraid.
Is that kind of thing allowed in Germany now? Are they allowed friends over? I don't know what their situation is over there.
Yeah, maybe, whether or not he's allowed it, it's happening. So maybe it's illegal. Who knows?
You didn't hear it here, anyone. So please don't get involved. Jerry G says, Gina. Yes, we wish Miss Carano all the best. And it seems like she's landing on her feet. Actually, she's already got like a movie lined up with Ben Shapiro, which is a bit of a weird one, but okay. BMB Studios says, it's weird seeing critical face cam. Kind of missed the avatar, lol. All right, hold on. Let's see if I can... That's the wrong mouse. There you go. There's my avatar.
You're going to upset everybody. All the other people are going to want you to put it back on.
Yeah, but now I can get naked, so no one can see me. Yeah, I'll put it like this for 5 minutes and I'll move back. Also from BMB Studios, I expect a critical reviews Legend of Drunken Master. Oh, yeah. I've heard of that. I haven't seen it, but I would like to, because I'm pretty sure I can relate. Dominic says, when is the Critical Drinker going to review Big Trouble in Little China? It's coming. You better believe that it's coming. But I'm just waiting for the right time. Alexander says, is it me or American humor hits you like a sledgehammer on the head, while British one seems more refined and cleverer? There's definitely a difference. And I'm not trying to sit here and be all hoity-toity like, well, we're terribly smart here in Britain. But I think there's definitely a difference in style between American and British humor.
Yeah, I remember the dichotomy at one point was like, oh, Americans like slapstick while British is witty. And it's like, okay, let's chill on the, like, try to make British sound so much more intelligent. It's like, there's a lot of, all of British humor's famous stuff, a lot of it is witty stuff. Like, I always think of Blackadder and Fawlty Towers, where a lot of the humor comes from understanding maybe the subtext or the joke underneath the overt statements, and they're really funny, versus maybe some American stuff where it's much more overt and everything. But like, there's plenty of really good American comedy and then really shitty British comedy. So I tend to just be like, yeah, we often think of British comedy as really dry and witty, but there's a full banquet of comedy from all these different places, and you gotta appreciate all of them.
At their best, both of them are fantastic.
Yeah,
it's just like there's a real range between the two countries, and yeah, I think sometimes you're kind of defined by what's most commercially successful, and yeah, between countries, sometimes it can be something that's a bit more simplistic, or at least more obvious in America, whereas perhaps there's different sensibilities over here. But yeah, like, it's not to put down either country. Like, we're both capable of producing quite smart, funny comedy. It's just it just depends what you're into, really.
Yeah.
Francis Board Coppola says, hey drinker, if you haven't already, I'd recommend watching Chris Hemsworth Extraction on Netflix. The action rocks, the story is tight. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've talked about this on live streams before. I've seen Extraction, and it's a good film. The action is really good. Chris Hemsworth is great in it. It's great to see him do stuff beyond Thor, because I think the guy's a pretty viable action star, really. He's obviously got the physique for it. He's a pretty good actor. And yeah, Extraction was a good film. It's not terribly complex plot, but it's just an old-fashioned kick-ass action movie where a lot of people get killed. I don't know if you've seen it, MauLer.
I haven't, but I've been recommended it a couple of times.
No, it's good. It's not even very long. I think it's about 90 minutes or something, so not going to take up too much of your time, but yes, it's not a bad film. Olatization says, drinker, if you ever review Goodfellas, I'll buy you a bottle of Monkey Shoulder. Well, there's an offer I can't refuse. Yeah, I've said this before. Like, I don't know how you feel about this, but like, when it comes to movies like The Godfather, Goodfellas, like, I'm not massively into like mobster kind of movies. Like, I appreciate that they're well put together and they're definitely fantastic films with great actors. It's just not necessarily the genre I would pick for doing like movie reviews and stuff.
I never would have thought that we would line up 100% on that. I've said that on EFAP before. People have asked me for an example of films that I think are great that just don't really do much for me, and I've said before that Godfather, I think that they're excellent movies, at least the first two. But like, I don't have much of a drive to rewatch them or even like show my friends them. I'm typically just like, no, they're just really good.
Yeah, yeah. And I always want to qualify it by saying, like, yeah, I recognize they're good. Don't hate me for it or anything. It's just like they're not my thing necessarily. So I wouldn't feel like I'd be that qualified to talk about them that much. GD Chapel says, "Bang, love me, say that you love me." I do love you, GG Chapel. Thank you. Alex Andrews says,
"Oh wait, well, you remember that's from Hot Fuzz, right?"
Love me, saying that you love me.
It's the play where they do Romeo and Juliet, and then she just goes bang, and they go love.
That's the song, yeah. Because we were talking about that before. I couldn't remember what it was.
Angel's face is just utterly bewildered.
Just it's like shock and like disbelief. Alex Andrews says, one of my favorite Simon Pegg, Nick Frost movies reviewed by my two favorite reviewers. Cheers, boys. Also, any favorite German brews drinker? Okay. German beers. I mean, Heineken's okay. Don't mind that. Yeah, when it comes to beers, I tend to go Italian. Like, I like Peroni. I like Belgian beers as well. Like, I really like Left Blonde beer. That goes down just great. So that would be my choice. Don't know if I feel like we need metal for this one.
I was going to say my beer knowledge is really limited, especially German beer knowledge. I'm definitely running. Yeah, we could pop them a message sometime about German beers.
Yeah. The Dado the Dead says, here's some American currency while it still has some value. Cheers.
Hey.
Well, hopefully it stays that way. Taker610 says, Chris Angel, Mind Freak, the Magician Drinker. Mind Freak? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that could be the one I was talking to. Like when I got Nicholas Angel and Chris Angel mixed up.
Right.
Yeah, that could well be, actually. Alexander says, also, have you seen classic French and Italian comedies? And some Soviet comedies are must-see. The 1960s and 70s were a really good time for international cinema. No, I've got to be honest. Like, I don't traditionally associate the Soviet Union with comedy, but who knows? Maybe those guys were kicking it. I don't know. Dominic the Donkey says, the best bromance. I assume that's Angel and Danny.
Yeah, probably.
D. Matthews says, here's to MauLer and the Drinker. Drinker, have you ever considered doing a drink along? It's like a watch along, only we all get drunk as fuck. I mean, that's basically every live stream for me. So, like, you know, feel free to get started, gentlemen. I don't know if we do like a, you know, I could watch a movie and just tell everyone when they should take a shot. I mean, I'd be happy to do that.
You could do that. That could be a series. You could edit it like the sort of EFAP movie stuff, but just have it be that. Unless is this something you do like in a live stream, maybe?
Yeah, I could do that. I mean, yeah. So like, I could be watching the movie on live stream because obviously I can't show the whole thing or I'll get copyright struck. But yeah, just like you can get my reactions, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll take a shot as I go through this thing, and everyone just keep pace with me. And I'll be passed out by the end of it. So yeah, I'm happy to do that. That's something I've never done, actually. I've never done a watch along. I know we've done it on EFAP movies and stuff, but yeah, I think sometimes it's easier to talk about it as you go. Especially, you know, because you can, you know, there might be scenes or whatever that you might want to spend a bit of time talking about, and if you don't have that time and you've got to move on to the next one because it's playing, you know, it can sometimes kind of hem you in a little bit. But I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. You do your best, you know, to try and make it work.
Yeah, I mean, when we did Batwoman, like season 2, like we obviously kind of skipped over a fair bit of the dialogue because we were talking.
For us all to actually be able to sort of not only register everything that was happening, but also react to everything, like with 7 people, that was experimental, but lots of fun though.
I think in a way it's almost better if you don't really understand what's happening, because man, it's that kind of show. Malachi Constant says, first time I saw Hot Fuzz, I was high on ketamine, and it wasn't a comedy. It was a terrifying Casper-esque horror story. I mean, you could see it that way for sure. For the greater good. Rachel Pups gave me a super sticker for $5, so thank you very much. Erathon says, this one's for your video about Gina. Cheers, mate. Thank you. I mean, that was... that was a video where I don't often talk about like current goings on in entertainment. Like I tend to just review stuff. But this was a thing that came up where I was like, nah, this is bullshit right here. I really want to talk about this. So I'm glad people appreciated it. But man, it's a contentious subject. It really is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it is uncanny. I follow basically accounts on, I don't want to say both sides, rather, let's just say a lot of sides. And I knew what the take was going to be from basically every account I follow. Like, nobody surprised me. And that's not supposed to be critical. It's just that it's so strange these days that, like, something can happen and you'll know what everybody's going to say on it, probably because of just how split a lot of things are now.
Yeah.
Like, there's a team you belong to. And it's just, like, the more interesting part for me is discussing the actual details and trying to generate a sort of like, why is this right or wrong from core principles, instead of just being like, well, my group thinks this is a good thing, so I do too. Or, yeah.
I mean, my take on it, and which is what I kind of tried to explain in the video, is like, I'm not I'm not necessarily thinking that the posts she shared on social media were a great idea. Like, it's not stuff I would have shared. But the fact that she was just summarily fired without any kind of hearing or anything like that, it just very much reeks of like, well, we've been wanting to get rid of this person for a while because she's not saying the right things and not bowing down to the right people.
I've seen it characterized as like it was incredibly anti-Semitic, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, her point is clearly not to be anti-Semitic whatsoever. Like, the only way you can do that is if you twist it.
Yeah. But that's I guess that's what these people kind of specialize in. It's like, it's almost like you see it and you're like, you wince internally because you're like, I know how people are going to take this and I know how they're going to use it against you. And it's like, I just wish you hadn't done it.
Yeah, no, there is often a thought, because like we talk about it on EFAP every once in a while, but like optics. So it's not just the point you're making; it's how it's made because of how it can be twisted. You have to think about that these days, because it's not just a matter of making it look like you have a bad perspective or bad opinion. Now it's like it can destroy your career. You have to be careful.
Yeah, and I think for her, like the sort of controversy she'd been involved in the past, like I know the whole pronouns in bio thing. I probably would have just come off social media or come off Twitter at that point. It's like, because like whatever I say or do, people are going to find a way to weaponize it against me. It's like, I'll just fucking not hassle myself with it.
If I was an agent in Hollywood, my stars, I'd be like, all of you delete your Twitters. We're not doing this. And like, what about marketing? What about social outreach? Fuck it. You guys are going to make a mistake at some point. It'll cost your careers. There's no point.
Yeah.
Which is funny because we have Twitters, but like I use it to talk to people. That's mainly what I do it for.
But pretty much, yeah. And one of the things I'm adamant about on my Twitter is like, I'm not going to engage with people in arguments, because it's not worth my time. It's like trying to dance your way out of quicksand. Like, you're not going to help yourself. It's just going to waste your time, and it's going to piss you off. So like, like I'll share things or like make statements, or I'll make people aware of stuff that's coming up for me. But like, I'm not going to get into arguments with people on Twitter, because it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. But yeah, I think with people like her, like obviously she's got a reach that's like 10 times the size of mine easily. I think, you just have to be a bit more aware of what you say, because it's going to get used against you.
Yeah, because again, I'm not really commenting on what she said, rather just like if she said it as a suggestion to us in a call, like, I'm going to put this tweet out, I imagine both of us would be like, ooh, don't, because they'll screenshot it and then you'll be screwed. Like, that's just how it goes.
Yeah. Sorry, people were asking me to bring back the drinker cam. Hold on. There you go. It's me. Right. So where the fuck was I at? This. Yeah, October 15 says Leslie Tiller was funking murdered.
That's a great reference. Well, I'm assuming
Funky Pete was amazing.
They it was like the extras on the Shaun of the Dead. I say DVD because it probably was that at that point.
It was that, yeah, because I've seen it.
It's 4 in the funking morning.
It's when Nick Frost just goes prink.
Prink.
But do you notice as well, because I think they knew like this was ludicrous and like it was, it was never going to be viable as a way of redubbing that scene, so they just like totally tore the arse out of it. And there's a bit where Pete's going like, you want to live like an animal? Go and live in the shed, you think funk. And like they just really badly dubbed it in because they're like, fuck it, just mess around with it. It's just
pretty sure that was my first like sort of introduction to Peter Serafinowicz, right? I think is his name. He's fucking great. Yeah. Everything he's in, he does an incredible job. Why has he not got more roles? Why is he not in more like A-list stuff? What's going on there?
I don't know. Have you ever seen Kitchen Gun?
No.
Look up Peter Serafinowicz Kitchen Gun. It'll change your life, honestly.
Did you see him as the Tick?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Oh, so much fun. But yeah, go on. What's Kitchen Gun?
So I mean, the sort of premise is it's like those those kitchen cleaning ads with like what's his name, Barry Scott. Where he's kind of yelling at the camera. Yeah. But in this case, he's got a gun that he uses to shoot the grease off things. And so it's like there'll be like a grimy kitchen sink, and you'll just see him there going bang, bang, bang. And it's clean, but it's covered in bullet holes at the same time. And you just see him kissing the gun and just laughing maniacally. It's just
remember awesome. Him when he popped up in John Wick 2. He was like the gun salesman dude. He did fucking great at it.
Yeah. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy as well.
Yeah, and I remember when I saw him in it, I was like, I like this guy. Maybe this will be his chance to like, be able to do it. And he dies. I was like, no, fucking God damn it.
I don't know what the deal is with him. Whether he gets more work as a voiceover artist or something. Not sure.
That, yeah, maybe he said something that was again because I don't understand how I couldn't have seen him in more A-list stuff. I just don't get it.
Yeah. Gianni Greco here says, "Drinker, you Caledonian Colossus! I finally started your Ryan Drake series, so here's some payment for your hard work." No, thank you. You probably all bought the series already, so you've kind of paid me already. But anyway, enjoying it so far. Reminds me of early Frederick Forsyth and Leigh Dayton. Well, thank you very much. I'm in good company in that case. Craig Lee Williams says, "Please watch and review Come to Daddy with Elijah Wood." Okay. Not heard of that. I'll be honest with you. But I'll add it to the list. Slosher says, apparently the scene where they chased the swan from the castle actually happened. A London cop moved to the country, and on his first week, he got a call to catch a swan and thought it was a prank. I do like that scene where he's taking a description of the swan, and it's like, well, it's about 2 feet tall. It's got a long neck. Orange bill. Anything else? Well, it's a swan.
It's wonderfully done as well because it's just after the whole Sergeant Angle thing, and they put it in his locker, and everyone's laughing at him, and so he sits down at his desk. It's like Peter Ian Staker, and he goes, "P.I. Staker, piss taker, come on!" Like everyone's fucking with him, and he's like, "Yes, Mr. Staker." Yeah,
he's a real guy.
Piss taker.
David Coots says, "Kill some brain cells on me, drinker, for the greater good." The greater good. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Alex K says, "Timothy Dalton is bae." Yeah, he is. He's awesome.
It's another one where I'd be like, oh, he'd be great in some more villain roles, like in big movies as well. He's I'd love to watch him be like a super serious bad guy. He's got such a presence, and it's so fun to see him in such a small scale environment while playing such a larger than life sort of bad guy.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, because he was in. Well, I think he played the villain in Doctor Who. He was like a Time Lord or something that had gone renegade, and he was like wanting to destroy the universe. So, that's the kind of role you get for him. I wasn't a huge fan of him as Bond. I feel like he didn't. It's a hard one to describe. Like he definitely played like the somber and serious kind of Bond, but he never seemed like he was suave. He didn't seem like he was having fun with it. And I guess that would.
I can't even remember his portrayal as Bond that well. He's that Bond to me, the one where when I watch them all through, that I'm always just like, oh yeah, because doesn't he only has the one, right?
Two.
Oh, two.
Yeah, he was in 2 movies. Yeah, because the second one he was in he was in it with Benicio del Toro, a very young Benicio del Toro, who got fed into a meat grinder, which was horrific. But yeah, I think his Bond was like after Roger Moore, like he was much more like business-like and serious, and apparently he was very close to like the literary version of Bond. But for me, he just didn't quite have the look for it. I don't know. He certainly didn't look like he was really enjoying himself. He was more like, he was just very, very serious about the whole thing. So it kind of made sense that they moved on to someone like Brosnan, who was a bit more like in between. What's the next one? Farewell Thunderchild says, I love all the details you only spot after a few watches, like how the poster for R&J changes who is starring. Also, finger in the duck pond.
Oh yeah, he like coughs with his drink when he says that, right?
Oh fuck yeah. Yeah, because it's like she's got a taste for older men or something, and it's like
it's the construction again, and the delivery is so good because basically like he says like the most convincing thing about them was that the kiss, right? And it's him using some deductive skills. He's like, oh yeah, this is clearly the case. And then Nick Frost is like, oh wow, good point. He's like, I also think that there's reason to assume that she has an interest in older men. And so Simon Pegg is like, you're gonna reflect something interesting back to me. He goes, yeah, because she was fingered down the duck pond. He's going,
that even gets referenced later when he's recounting all the events of that night, and you get to see him spitting out his drink in reverse.
Yeah. And he brings it up. I don't know if you remember. It's so good in terms of just figuring out how their brains work. So when Simon Pegg is like recanting the events when they're trying to figure out how these victims connect, and he says, Eve, he's saying like summarizing the events, and in the background, Danny's just making comments. And he's like, oh, Eve Draper had an affair with Martin Blower, and he just goes, finger.
Oh, man. They're so good. What's the next one here? Dominic the Donkey says, you legendary lads, what is your favorite sea shanty or drinking song?
This has been going around a lot lately, like sea shanties and stuff. I've seen them get more popular. The one that everyone references, if I can remember the name, I'm assuming you don't at all have any clue what the fuck's happening when someone asks you that, or?
Well, I do actually. My favorite sea shanty is "Wolves of the Sea" by Ailstorm. That is a fucking cracking song. But yeah, like I know, like was there not some dude who did like sea shanties, and then suddenly it's become like a pop sensation, and he's got like dance remixes of it and stuff. It's like really bizarre.
The sad fact is, it could actually have been TikTok that did this, because lots of people were doing covers and stuff. And yeah, the Weller Man, I think, is the one that's going around loads. It's really catchy, and loads of people are covers with it. Yeah, I gave it a listen. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, actually. Yeah, sea shanty, honestly, like a comeback.
I would honestly rather listen to a sea shanty than like 99% of what's in the pop charts right now. So
yeah,
like, I'm fine with that, 100%. Rob Price here says, hey, speaking of comedy, have you ever checked out the TV series What We Do in the Shadows? Hilarious. No, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard great things about it, and it's definitely on my to-do list, and probably my review list as well. Yeah, it's meant to be really. I think it's the guys who do Flight of the Conchords, but it's basically based around vampires. So yeah, sounds good. Charles Hurst says, great film, excellent choice, gentlemen. Have a few on me. Thank you very much, my friend. Atlas Vigilante says, two of my favorite YouTubers covering one of my favorite action comedies. I reckon it's time for a couple of cold ones for the greater good. Cheers, gents.
Greater good.
Cheers to you. I love how they keep repeating it as well, and then eventually Angel's having to say, like, shut up!
It's so absurd.
It's like they've been that conditioned whenever someone says the greater good, they have to repeat it. Louis the Plank says, fascist, hag, I love this movie. I love you guys. Cheers. Thanks, mate. Heartbreak Ridge says, the wife and I loved Hot Fuzz so much, I got her to see Baby Driver without any discussion. So cheers, and hope you do Baby Driver next. Yeah, that could be one to review for sure. Good movie. Yeah. Bellicose says, have either of you seen Dead Right? It's a short film made by Edgar Wright when he was 18. No, I wasn't even aware that was a thing that existed.
I was aware of it. I haven't seen it though. I remember. I think it was a bunch of extras on the Hot Fuzz DVD. I remember looking into. They had like a little featurette about what he'd done before Shaun of the Dead. Even I was like, ooh,
nice.
That's probably why I know about it.
Walt says 2020 UK Police Notebook. Suspect made an edgy joke on Twitter. Yeah, yeah, that'll get you fucking cancelled and banned. Apparently arrested in the UK as well, which is just hilarious. Offsets 2117 says the old bag is using a Sten gun. It's British made and a piece of crap. Yeah, I know that about the Sten. It was mass produced in factories towards the end of the war when resources were tight, and it's like, just use something that goes booms.
Do you know about the? I only know about this because of the movie Anthropoid, but do you know about the attempted assassination of? I think his name was Reinhardt or Reinrich or something. He was like third in charge in the obviously Germany.
Reinhard Heydrich.
That's the one.
So they tried to assassinate him in the Czech Republic, I think.
Yeah.
He was the SS commander there. Yeah, I think they did actually kill him, didn't they?
Well, it's just interesting to talk about the Sten gun. They were given a Sten gun to kill him with, and it jammed when they tried to kill him with it, and they got him with a grenade, I think, instead.
Right.
But yeah, fuck Sten guns.
Yeah. They were pretty poorly made. They look really cumbersome as well. Like the way you have to hold them doesn't seem like you could fire them very accurately.
All the chat is like, no, they did kill him. I was like, I never said they didn't. I didn't get to finish my point. I watched the movie. And, wow, they know they killed him. They got him. But the Sten gun caused problems.
Yeah, he dies from grenade wounds. Yeah, there we go. What would they say in here? Glad you're going over one of my favorites. Cheers, have a drink on me. Thank you. Abraham Gaunt 8863 says, according to the Movie Gun database, it's a Steyr Solothurn S1-100/MP34 submachine gun.
So it is Germany then. Like that's the only part I'm interested in. Was it a German gun? It's like I think it is. If it's an MP, what did you say? 34, 43? It's
MP34. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so fair enough. It kind of ties in with your point, like you were saying. It's like a gun manufactured by a fascist regime, and that's what she keeps calling him. So yeah, it's
and all of the weapons in the film are all like older. They're of an older era because, of course, that's what happens. A lot of they just fall around into the countryside and moved around and stuff. And a lot of people have stockpiles.
Pretty much. I think if you ever were going to get a hold of a gun in the UK, it would be like almost like a World War II era thing that was like laying in someone's attic for like 50 years.
Do you remember? You must have seen Lock, Stock, right?
Oh yeah.
Is it Lock, Stock or Snatch? I'm pretty sure it's Lock, Stock, where they have the guy who buys the Stead gun, and they're like, "What the fuck is that?" He's
no,
like,
it's that's a Bren gun.
A Bren gun, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a light machine gun that they used in World War II, and
oh man, I need to watch both of them again. I love those movies.
Yeah, it's the girl that gets a hold of it in the end, isn't it? And she just like absolutely lays waste to the whole room in front of her and doesn't hit a fucking thing. Oh, that's great.
Those are the like quintessential British movies as well.
Love them.
We should do that sometime, baby.
I genuinely love to. I mean, I probably prefer Lock, Stock, but like both that and Snatch are excellent films. Guy Ritchie at his peak.
Yeah.
What was the next one here? Beer Me Too Brett says, there is a website with a list of all the firearms in the movie. I love the absurdity of it in the UK. Yeah, absolutely. The idea of having like these big extravagant shootouts with like machine guns and stuff in a UK village is just amazing. Big Fat Nerd says yarp. Yeah. Or narp, as the case may be. The Bull Moose says, what's your opinion on True Detective Season 1? Alexandra Daddario's boobs. That's my opinion on Season 1. Fantastic.
I saw it when it came out, and I need to see it again. But like, yeah, I remember that's actually like talked about a whole bunch because I'm pretty sure isn't that like the only time she's actually been like naked on screen, and so everybody like goes nuts about it. I was like, well, yeah, but what about the story though?
Yeah, who cares? I mean, honestly, like she's got one of those bodies that just looks like she was designed in a lab or something. Like, man, it's just perfection. Yeah. It's awesome. I don't remember much of the story for Season 1, but I remember it being really good. I think Season 2 was a bit disappointing in comparison.
Yeah. Season 1 is praised thoroughly, so like that's kind of why I want to watch it again because I've forgotten loads of it.
Dominic the Donkey asks us, probably a hard question, but which is your favorite line or quote from the film?
That is hard because there's loads of really good ones.
I think it's either by the power of Grayskull or you're a doctor, deal with it. Yeah, motherfucker. Like, I think
like
either
I said,
of those.
I really love the Reverend falling over and saying "Jesus Christ" like that. It's wonderful. Honestly, like I don't know if I can pick between them. As all the ones we've been mentioning, they're all so good. They're all in context, fantastic lines, and all the repeated ones. And yeah, I like it when he just pulls out the double like slotted guns and just says "piss off, grasshopper."
Oh man, there's so many good ones. What's the next one here? Stephen Otten says, "Hail Drinker, MauLer, and everyone in the chat. Joining late. Hot Fuzz is one of the greatest action comedies of all time. I quote it daily. Excellent, sir, and well deserved." J Fraser 360 says, "Hail Drinker and MauLer. Either of you heard of the commentary track with Edgar Wright and Quentin Tarantino? More of a podcast between two directors discussing nearly 200 films that influenced Hot Fuzz."
Wow.
That would be awesome. Actually, I'd love to listen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're two directors. Yeah, I'd love to hear them interact. I would posit, and it's probably unpopular, but Quentin Tarantino is not quite the force that he was. Like I feel like he's maybe disappeared up his own arse a little bit in terms of like his style of directing and his reliance on really good dialogue. That's maybe not quite as good as it used to be. Like I feel like he's kind of doing that a bit much now.
Yeah, my favorite stuff from him always feels like it's from a different era at this point.
Yeah.
Really like this is the thing though. He more than most, if he puts out a new film, I'll be like, "Oh, I want to see it," just in case it's really, really fucking good. You know.
I mean, he doesn't do that often, so yeah, it's still an event when he does. So I'll give him that. But yeah, I feel like he's kind of peaked about 10 years ago. Yet another response podcast says, "Cheers, Drinker. It's people like you and EFAP that inspired my podcast, Yarp. So here's some booze money, you handsome devil." Thanks, man.
The podcast is called. Is that anything to do with Yop from? I don't know.
I hope it is.
Is that an acronym?
I mean, he's probably like he's acronymed it, so it's like YARP with a space. Sorry, with a full stop in between each one. So I feel like that's an actual acronym.
Oh wow. Yeah, good to hear.
I hope your icon is just Lurch from this movie. That'd be great. Goaty McGoatface says, "So awesome to see MauLer without rags." Some offense, but rags is an obnoxious, not funny tool who thinks talking the most makes him smart.
Don't worry if you feel awkward reading that out. He gets a lot of shit on EFAP as well. You're right.
Yeah. Fair enough. Like, look, take it as you wish, but like, I've got no beef with rags. We've done a whole dozens of podcasts and EFAPs together, and I've never had an issue with the guy. So,
well, a lot of people like to forget how much insight he adds to the conversation, how much comedy he adds. Like they just don't like that he's an asshole to some people. Sometimes it's just like, well, I mean, when he's an asshole to people you don't like, you'll love him.
Yeah. Zom, this is an awesome lol says, too British for me, the movie, not you, critical drinker. Yeah, I would say give it another try. Like it is very British, but like there's definitely comedy to be had here. I guarantee it.
You get a sense of like being too British is not a thing, all right?
Yeah, there's no such thing as too British. Stigma of the Rose says, wait, I was just watching something YouTube called Live with MauLer, and it's what sorcery is this? Yeah, I think that probably was previously recorded and it's just been re-uploaded. Because you can do it as an instant premiere, can't you?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what it is. Dominic the Donkey says, question from the Longman, what's your favorite drink?
Oh, Bailey's. I love Bailey's, and that's the thing. It's one of the like sugariest alcohols, but like, oh, I love the different tastes you get from them. But then again, this is the thing. You and I are probably completely different on this. I don't actually care too much about the drink. I'm also invested in getting drunk because I like getting drunk. It's fun.
Well, I mean, I like both.
Well, yeah, because like people are like, oh yeah, I prefer this drink over this. I'm just like, I'll even drink like really cheap vodka. I don't really mind as long as it gets the job done. Which is, I usually have a little bit more fun whenever we're getting a little tipsy and stuff. But at the same time, I'll always prefer if they taste better, right? And this is the thing: if we were ever able to go out in this universe of infection, I would be like, all right, drinker, what's the best drinks? Gimme.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like it depends on the setting. Like if I was on a night out, it's like you do whatever is the quickest and most efficient way to get pissed. When you're in your house, you've got the free choice for whatever you want because we're all locked down at the moment. So that's when you get a bit more choosy about what you have. But yeah, one day we will unite for a night out and we'll go out drinking, and I'll try and make some recommendations.
Hopefully, we'll be at a point where we actually can, in 10 years, I'm sure.
When we're allowed to go places again and do stuff.
Yeah.
Jay Fraser 360 says, do you think Edgar Wright peaked early? Aside from his grindhouse short, Don't, Scott Pilgrim is terrible and Baby Driver came off as pretentious. I wasn't a massive fan of Scott Pilgrim. I think it's just because of the main actor they had in it.
It's tough because like it's really hard to be as good as the Cornetto Trilogy. He knocked it out of the park with those movies. Like it's in the same way that people are like, oh, Peter Jackson must have peaked early. It's like, I mean, it's gonna be really hard for him to make anything as good as Lord of the Rings, right? Like it's
well, he certainly didn't equal it with The Hobbit, that's for sure.
That's the thing. People are like, it's because there's a lot to do with that may or may not be his fault. But then there's also like a lot of people I know hated the King Kong version he did. I haven't seen it in long enough to be able to defend it or attack it. I can't remember if it was great or not. And then there's he produced, wasn't it Mortal Engines, and everyone hated that. I don't remember what he's been up to, but like a lot of people argue it's like, yeah, Peter Jackson, Ridley Scott, James Cameron, and possibly Edgar Wright are all past their prime. We just said it about Quentin Tarantino to a degree, and I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe they could still bring out something that blows us away. Maybe the next iteration of Alien from Ridley Scott is going to be amazing, guys.
Wow. That's it. Yeah. Keep that optimism going. I think with Edgar Wright, get him reunited with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and give him some time to work on a good script, and you'll probably get something good out of him. I think the problem comes in when it's like he's probably constrained by the Hollywood studio system, and it's like you've got to make a movie within these parameters, and it is probably just not his bag. He works best when he's doing things like Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz, when it's like you're taking these classic tropes of like action movies or zombie movies or whatever and moving it into a different context to make it funny. And you can't do that with everything, and it doesn't port over to every genre or every movie. So he's kind of got himself like a niche that he can work within. And it's just making the best use of that, I suppose. Gamer Tyrians says, love both you guys. Sorry to reference a prior episode, but Rocky must have brain damage in Rocky Balboa. He doesn't notice the head of the boxing board is also his lawyer from Rocky 5. Kind of sus. What the fuck? I didn't know that at all. Damn, I must have brain damage as well in that case. Yeah, I mean, I think Stallone himself referenced this when he was talking about Rocky Balboa. He's like, look, Rocky just had a really severe concussion. And, you know, by today's standards, he would have been cleared for fighting again, but he was just too old by that point. It's a little bit of like whitewashing over what was going on. But, you know, I would take it from the point of view of like Rocky Balboa being a pretty nice way to round out the series, rather than Rocky 5, which was really depressing and sad. So I can accept that one. Farewell Thunderchild says, proper way to speak with a West Country accent is to forget the letter H exists. Try this. Edie to Bath to a nice hotel for the weekend on the Zyder. Yeah.
It looks like I'm not familiar exactly how they do it, but
see, you're asking a Scottish guy to do a West Country accent. Like, man, that's a stretch.
I have mixed knowledge of all of the people over Britain, and I just neither of us will be able to properly do that, probably.
Yeah. Fuck, I can't even say this guy's name. This is Weissam McGlaw, whatever. British humor, am I right? Yes, you are right, British humor. Also from Farewell Thunderchild, would be better if Danny wasn't a gashead, Rovers. I don't know if you get that from him, really.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
Trenton Quinn says, I'm so pissed Pedro was cast for Joe in the HBO Last of Us. Even Troy Baker wanted Josh Brolin. What do you guys think? Yeah, Josh Brolin would have fucking nailed it.
Dude, fucking Troy Baker would have been a better choice. Like, the actual voice actor. I know that he's not quite built like Joel is, but I think you can make that work. You can get him maybe to do some... But when they were like Pedro Pascal, I was like, why? Like, I don't know if you've seen the second Kingsman, but like his American accent is... it can be a tad distracting.
Honestly, like, it feels like he's built an entire career off being a somewhat cool character in Game of Thrones. And you know, the Mandalorian doesn't really demand much of him because he's behind the helmet 90% of the time, so you don't even see it.
The Mandalorian was clearly a career move, like, because it's getting him more and more roles doing Mandalorian, but Mandalorian isn't really much of a role for him at all. He has like 3 scenes per season where he has to do acting.
Yeah. I mean, he did Narcos, so that was probably the biggest thing that I've seen him in, where he actually did acting. But like, again, that didn't demand too much of him. He was just like a hard-bitten, FBI sort of anti-narcotics cop. Well, like, he didn't really do much in it.
The crazy thing is, like, the most effort I think I've seen him put into a role is either going to be Oberyn Martell or Max Lord.
Yeah, and that's not really a great pedigree, is it?
That's the thing. Like, it'd be like, oh, he's going to be Joel. It's like, what? There were so many other actors that I would go to before Pedro Pascal. Like, I don't understand that at all. And it's not even like he's the wrong race or he's the wrong actor. I just, you just don't think of him presence-wise as someone like Joel from The Last of Us at all. I've seen, like, Southpaw was one of the people, like, saying, like, Hugh Jackman would be a way better choice. And I was just like, yeah, absolutely, Hugh Jackman. And then a lot of people were like, no, Hugh Jackman can't portray characters that are, like, sad. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Have you seen fucking Logan?
And Prisoners, and there's lots and even if he hadn't had roles that we've seen him be sad, like, why would you say that he can't? Like, why? Hugh Jackman's fantastic.
Yeah, I really don't think Pedro Pascal is going to convey that kind of grittiness and that hard-bitten element that you would look for in Joel.
I'll give him a chance and everything, but I don't know. It's because a lot of people like to pull out the Heath Ledger example with the Joker every time anyone says an actor shouldn't really have been cast for a role, and it's like, fine, I'll let him try, but Yeah,
the thing is, if he fucks it up, that's it. But the question is, like, who are they going to cast for Abby? Like, one of my mates sent me a picture of a brick shit house. Like, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Thomas Carroll says Rory McCann had a more satisfying conclusion to his character arc as Lurch in Hot Fuzz than the Hound got in Game of Thrones. Yeah, pretty much. You didn't see him throw himself off a building.
I've said though, like that's probably the best end to a character in Game of Thrones season 8 out of all of them. That one, like he fought his brother and died doing it. It's like, God, that's they sort of walked that one into the ending. The rest of them were just annihilated.
I think the fact that like that entire lead up to that fight was like a cutscene from a video game.
Oh yeah,
and then the whole like Cersei awkwardly walking past the Hound to get down the stairs because that's where she needed to be. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake!
I think as a writer, like if it almost felt like as they were writing it, I mean, like it's like it came too meta. Like they were building the Clegane Bowl memes, and like, oh, you can't wait for this. And then it's this insanely weird action scene. It's like and you're almost like the Hound is this awesome action star. You've got a couple lines of like as they're fighting, and then they end by falling into like a chasm of fire. Just what is happening? Like Game of Thrones used to be so much more subdued. Let's just put it that way.
Just remember when it was smart and it relied on like maneuvering and
yeah,
you know, like almost like a single kind of statement from a character carried more weight than than any like fight scene or anything like that. And then the last 2 seasons just relied entirely on spectacle and like dramatic like battle scenes and people getting killed in dramatic fashion. Like it was all just so overblown.
I do blame like the audience, including myself, to some degree, because a lot of people would talk about as the seasons would go by, like, oh, you know what the highlight of season 5 was? Hardhome. Season 6, it was was the Battle of the Bastards season 6? I think it was.
Yeah.
And then season 7 is like, oh, well, I can't remember there was a couple of fights and that, and people are like, oh, is it Miguel Sapochnik or something was like the guy who did those episodes? And he's like, oh, he's getting like 3 episodes in season 8, and we're like, oh, it's gonna be great. There's gonna be a whole episode for the fights. Oh, it's gonna be great. Like everyone was so hyped. It's like, wait, we were never in Game of Thrones for the fights, guys. Like, and I say this to myself, like that wasn't what we were valuing. It was.
I mean, they worked when there was a lot at stake in the fights, and I think the Battle of Hardhome worked really well because, like, you got to know so many of the characters that were involved. You understood the perspective of everyone who was involved in that. And so when it actually unfolded, you're like really gripped by it because you wanted to see who was going to be right, how it was going to play out.
I wouldn't want it said that like we didn't want fights. Of course we do, but it's just like I think they lost sight of their goal was to create scenarios where fights happen rather than make sure the characters are all very much in line with who they are, and then fights break out and we portray them. Yeah,
I mean you can take that as like the Battle of Winterfell. Not the Battle of the Bastards, but like when they're up against the Army of the Dead, you know, like how not a single thing that happens in that makes any kind of sense. It's all just spectacle. It's all just a bunch of stuff that's going on because that's the script that they've written, and it's just awful. You know, I remember that was the point where I just got broken with Game of Thrones, and I was like, nope, this is fucked now. Nothing that happens from now on is going to matter.
I was furious with episode 3. They destroyed the show with episode 3 with the White Walkers. It was done. That was what I was still watching for because a lot of other stuff had been ruined. And I was like, well, I can't wait to see the conclusion of the White Walkers. At least that's been set up since episode 1. It's the prologue, and they ruined it.
They're just generic things that can be killed, and that's it. They're done.
What's pretty crazy to think about as well is that if you remember season 1, the battle between Tywin attacking Rob's army in season 1, it's like episode 9 or something, and then the Whispering Wood battle, both of them are off screen. We don't see them.
Yep.
Hold the results of them.
It's all budgetary at that point in the show. That's like, but that was fine because it's like what really matters is what leads up to it and what the repercussions are of it. Like seeing the battle is just window dressing, really.
And I think maybe the goals got changed somewhere along the way. People stopped caring about, and not people like audience, but the writers, I guess, and the people involved stopped realizing, like, they're just like, oh, we got so much money now, we can make a whole wide-scale war. And you're like, okay. Like, I feel like there's some other stuff we should be considered about, but all right.
Yeah, I mean that's the absolute rabbit hole that the show went down, and that's why it ended up the way it did. Ace Spade says you're supposed to send money to the show. That's why he is live. No, I mean I'm live because I'm enjoying talking about films that I liked watching, and it's great to have different guests on each time. If people send super chats, that's awesome. But it's like, yeah, genuinely, like these things are just like a little holiday for me. Producing videos is more like work, but this is just like a fun little thing that I get to do occasionally, so it's good. Also from Ace Spade, do you tip your bartender? Well, my bartender tonight is me, so yeah, I do tip me. Thank you. Matt Archer says, Hail Drinker and MauLer, just sending money to say that the guy from earlier was a jerk. Rags is an appreciated EFAP post, and I hope he has a happy birthday. Is it Rags' birthday soon?
Today, yeah.
Oh, all right, well, happy birthday, Rags.
It's funny, he was like, I can't do EFAP on Friday. And I was like, we don't do EFAP on Friday. And he was like, okay.
I thought you would have known by now,
Yeah, well,
DJ Dust says, all hail the drinker. Wanted to say thanks for all the entertainment provided via your channel since discovered it middle of last year. This pitiful donation is a fraction of what you deserve. Well, thank you. It's all very much appreciated, my friend, so thanks. John Oakletree says, 2 favorite gags. Everyone's last name is their jobs. And when you first meet Danny, he's drinking a full pint of lager in 5 seconds. Pint of lager, Mary. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that, actually.
Right, you are, my love.
Yeah. That's a real thing in England, isn't it? Or Britain. It's like, people traditionally, their surnames were derived from their profession.
Yeah, like
so it would be
Smith,
like Archer,
right?
or Smith or whatever.
The common surnames is like one of the most popular jobs back in the day. A Smith would be really, really necessary, but it's cool to think about the etymology of. I think that's the term for surnames and where they came from.
Yeah. Zom, this is awesome. Lol says, Drinker's love for Fuzz is greater than my feelings for Fuzz. Well, there you go.
Yeah, this is the thing. I watch a movie like Hot Fuzz and I'm like, gosh, who wouldn't like this? But then there are lots of people who are like, I didn't like it. And I'm like, oh.
but why, though?
Well, yeah, it's just, you know how it goes. Like, lots of people just don't line up with movies sometimes. It's like, no.
The thing is, it's not one of those big movies that, like, like Avatar, where everyone saw it, and so everyone's got an opinion on it. Like, it was a smaller film than that, and so it kind of feels like it's almost earned its right to just be generally well regarded.
Yeah,
rather than have its reputation precede it. DJ Just says, P.S. Have had to split messages and donations up as there's a limit on text allowed via YouTube. Mad. Just wanted to say, keep up the great work, mate. Daz. Thank you, man. Dominic the Donkey says, what drinks are you lads enjoying? Well, I think I talked about this already. I've got Woodford Reserve here, and I think MauLer's on vodka.
I am indeed.
So I'm on bourbon. You're on vodka. David Rury gave me $10 super chat, so thanks, mate. John Oakletree, another gag I love is that there's a strip club in the Hot Fuzz universe called Flappers, and Tina, Skinner's assistant, is a table dancer there.
Yeah. I think he says, like, in the scene where he's saying, like, a lot of people hold down a second job, and he mentions his, and then she looks at one of the Andes, and he just looks down, I think, or something like that. Yeah.
Well, he kind of smiles at her, and then he looks at the other Andy, and he's like, oh, shit, no. Chris Topher says, nothing like a bit of girl on girl. Yeah, indeed. Also, hi, Drinker, and also hi, Mio Wimbo, also Drinker. Please turn your cam off so my wife will pay attention to me. No, I want her to look at me.
My God.
Anyway. PSX Hacker says, Hail Drinker and MauLer. This is a magnificent comedy, a true masterpiece, and also a great example of progressive values and social commentary done right. Yeah,
they have a bit of fun with the proper guidelines of what should be said about what thing, and they just have fun with it. They don't make it like an actual fucking, like, you're a monster if you don't do XYZ. They just make some jokes.
Imagine that, eh?
Imagine that.
Casey McGregor says, Hot Fuzz is my favorite of the trilogy. Yarp is still a common usage in my family. Have you watched Spaced? Also, big fan of Christmas. Sorry, big fan also. Christmas is better than Halloween. Well, MauLer, it's definitive.
Hey, man, I know I'm on the unpopular team, but I'll fight for Halloween every day of the week.
I've watched a bit of Spaced. I've especially watched the sort of Resident Evil episode that inspired Shaun of the Dead. I wasn't a huge fan of the show. It just kind of passed me by back in the day. But I can definitely see, like, that sort of.
It feels like prototype. DNA for the Cornetto Trilogy in a way, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, you can see the sort of style there. You can see the way they frame things. Yeah, it's definitely there. So it's quite interesting to watch from that point of view. Hefty Fine says, Hail Drinker, a book recommendation for you, Redemption by Will Jordan. Nah, don't buy it. That guy's shit. It's a great read. Been recommending it to all my friends. Oh, well, thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate that. Mo Diggity says, the gore is so well done. My favorite movie of theirs. The bit where the guy gets the fucking cathedral through his head. That is something else.
I remember my parents being blown away by that, and I was just like, "Fucking hell."
George says, 2 of my favorite YouTubers split a pint on me. Tiny pint, Canadian dollar. The Canadian dollar is shit. Greetings from Newfoundland. Will you team up for Hudson Hawk, please and thanks? Christ, I don't think there's enough booze in the world to get me through Hudson Hawk. Board Hub says, what are your guys' thoughts on the Batman 2022? I think Robert Pattinson is going to be the best Batman, and Reeves knows the Batman comics very well. By the way, I love the EFAPs on the bad Joker reviews because they made me feel vindicated, lol.
Oh yeah, we covered so many. The best one to remember was we watched, I think it was the Young Turks reviewing Joker, and it opens with saying Joker hates black women.
Was I on that one? I think I was
might
there.
Have been, actually, yeah, I can't remember now. Oh god, that was an era that people ripping into Joker and their arguments were so weird.
Yeah, but yeah, in terms of the Batman, I don't know. Like, Robert Pattinson's redeemed himself in my eyes after doing things like The Lighthouse. Like, he's clearly a good actor. I really don't know if he can play Batman. I'm not convinced by that.
Obviously, that'll be a major topic for discussion when it comes out. Lots of people are just really hoping he's going to be great, and I'm stuck right in the neutral zone. I have no idea. We'll have to see. No idea.
I feel like we're all over the place with Batman as well. Like, you've got the Snyder Cut coming out, and sort of rumors that Affleck might return to the role, but you've also got the Pattinson one. You've also had like announcements of Michael Keaton being Batman again. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. There's like so many Batmen now. And if someone told me that fucking Val Kilmer was coming back as Batman, I'd be like, yeah, okay, why not? Throw him in there. It's just all over the place right now. Jay Fraser 360 says, Drinker, your Gina video is simultaneously sad and great. Hope Tatiana doesn't get suspicious. Well, MauLer, your thoughts on the situation? # we love Gina Carano, cancel Disney Plus, and Halloween is better than Christmas.
No. Oh wait, sorry. Yes, I yeah. So I think it's bullshit that she got fired. I think they apply a really inconsistent standard. I think that all the people right now who are saying, "Hey, if you say really dodgy shit, it's up to them as a private company to fire you." It's like, yeah, okay, you can say that, but the second they come for someone that you like, you won't be saying that. Like, that's just how it works, and it's really frustrating that she's got no protection from a certain amount of people because she doesn't have the right thoughts on certain subjects. That's how it works. This is just like, I don't even know anyone who would disagree with this. Like, this is of course how it works. I imagine at this point that a lot of people who don't like her would agree with this. They'd be like, yeah, there's a bias right now going, but it's for they would honestly possibly say it's for the greater good. Like they would be like, let's have this bias because she's one of the bad people and we can keep the good people, that sort of thing. So it's really sad to see. I famously think The Mandalorian is garbage. I think it's written like ass. I don't care about Cara Dune as a character. Gina Carano, though, seems like a really awesome human being. She's really kind and really just all the things she shares on Twitter seem very chill, but some of it is a little ill-advised. Like I said, I would have had a lot of reservations about trying to make any kind of comparison. When you even do analogies on like EFAP, trying to make arguments, rags will often go to an extreme like the Holocaust or Nazis, but like there is a sense of like people will stop listening to you and just instead immediately try and brand you as something if you sort of try and bring up any particular topic. And I just think that like what she did was a mistake, but that is all it was. It was just a small mistake in terms of just you have to be careful about how you phrase something or how you word something, because her point was still there. I read it and I was like, oh, she's saying that like one of the first things people try and do when a government is trying to crush a certain group of people is try and make the neighbors of that group hate them too. I was like, I understand. But invoking the Holocaust isn't always a great idea. And the image on it as well, very, I think people found it quite inflammatory and stuff. So, but yeah, I think it's bullshit. I think it's hypocritical and sad to see her go, but I think she'll be okay career-wise. And to be honest with you, I think maybe she'll look back and be happy she doesn't have to work for Lucasfilm, you know?
Yeah. I think the amount of backlash that's erupted from this as well is really probably taken Lucasfilm by surprise. I perhaps don't think they understood the degree of support that someone like Gina Carano had. And so it's good to see, like you say, I think one way or another she'll probably be okay from all of this, but it just makes me pissed off that the people who specialize in canceling folk through social media have kind of won the battle on this one.
Yeah, they've kind of got the power with this stuff, unfortunately. Like,
yeah, and you know, God love her, like she's a fantastic person, but like you say, you know, she probably chose a bad thing to share in that case, because once you invoke that kind of imagery and that kind of reference, you lose the nuance and you lose the thread of the point you're trying to make, and people, all they can see is that, and
yeah,
that becomes very easy to weaponize against you, and that's what I think has happened to her. And I don't know if it was just a result of her not thinking it through very well, or you know, just being a bit spontaneous, or perhaps underestimating the power of Twitter to fucking destroy people's careers. But either way,
I think most people don't expect to lose their career over stuff like that. I really don't think people have understood that that's where we're at now.
Yeah, I saw the hashtag, you know, trending, and I was like, well, that's been trending a few times and nothing's ever come of it, so it didn't really interest me, and it wasn't until the next day, like I say, we were talking about this earlier. I think it was you that had messaged me, like saying, you know, can you believe all this shit that's been going on with Joss Whedon and Gina Carano? I was like, what the fuck's happened with her? And then I looked it up, and it was like, oh shit, yeah, she'd been fired. So yeah, just unbelievable. Man, like it's yeah, it's a big old dose of bullshit, and I don't think it should have happened. And who knows what the fuck will come out of it? Like maybe they'll reverse course in a few weeks. I don't know.
Yeah, and like I said, if it was someone we hated for whatever reason, like the worst person you could imagine, I'd still be like, oh, this is a really bad precedent. This is going to be used again as we go on, because they can characterize what you say and they can be really harsh with it. And it's just like, just wait until they come for someone that you think it's unfair, and that blurry line just gets blurrier for the people who think this was a good thing that happened.
Yeah, very much so.
Loads of accounts I've seen supporting this, which is really a shame.
Yep. PSX Hacker here says the chemistry between Peg and Frost is always amazing to watch. Yeah, they're mates in real life, so it's good.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen Paul the Alien? Drinker kudos on the girl who wouldn't back down. Thank you. I saw Paul once, I think, when it came out, but then I've never seen it since then. I didn't like it that much.
I remember watching it when it came out, and I, for some reason, was mistaken in thinking it was like the next in this series of type of movies, and that Edgar Wright had made it. And I remember thinking, like, what the hell? This movie is so much worse than those. Like, what's going on? Like, just in terms of every aspect. And I was like, oh, Edgar Wright didn't make it at all. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was like a bad knockoff of their previous successes. I was like, how can we capitalize on this?
I remember having fun with it, but like, yeah, I don't remember it being very good.
PSX Hacker also says, MauLer, how do you feel about the way the cultural climate is evolving in the US with all the woke and censorship? And Drinker, how long until we in the UK get to the point of fearing for our jobs? Well, I'll let you answer the first part of that, I guess.
Yeah, in regards to that, like, I think we're already there. Like, obviously, even myself and Drinker can't be 100% unfiltered or honest about everything that happens, because it could cost us our careers. it's an unfortunate thing, but like it's relatively, and not in the sense that we have to lie, just in that we can't. We have to be careful about how everything is phrased, which is a shame, because you'd think like, well, don't you want repercussions for people saying really bad things? It's like, I don't know. I think we were at a point once where we could say stuff that may have been poorly phrased, and it could have been something we can clarify instead of something that we have to be fired for. That seems like a jump that I wasn't around for. I missed that meeting, but. Yeah, I mean, you know from watching EFAP, we are not happy with a lot of this. We're very, very into free speech and discussion. And as much as it's a meme, like, actually the marketplace of ideas, of course, in the same way that capitalism does need it. We need regulations and certain rules and asterisks on how certain things work, but like it's gone way too far, unfortunately. And yeah, it makes our jobs weird because there's some topics that like so for example, we try to avoid being too political on EFAP or in myself, but sometimes you don't even know what you're about to walk into is political. Like something you thought was just a topic in general, it's now like partisan. It's like if you vote, like if you say yes or no on this thing, you are now lumped in with either team. You're like, wait, what? When did this happen? It's like okay. And so people like, yeah, and it's getting a little bit more I don't know, tense, I guess, is the situation. It's not fun. And so I'd say, much like this stream and what we do on EFAP, is we're just hoping to create spaces where you get a reprieve from it, because it's non-stop on Twitter and online and everything.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the way I try to approach it, is like take the kind of attitude that we had 10, 20 years ago of like, there's certain lines that you wouldn't go across in terms of like insulting people or inciting people to act on things, but you can also poke fun at stuff that's blatantly ridiculous and just try and take a fairly balanced view of things, like just a rational layman's perspective on all this ridiculous nonsense that we get involved in now. But that's the space that we have to work in. Just like MauLer says, we have to be a little bit careful about all the things that we say, but it always feels like that particular that sword only hangs over one side of the whole argument, and it's a little bit frustrating to have to deal with, because it feels like you're constantly you're working with one hand tied behind your back, and it's fucking annoying, to be honest with you.
It's weirdly threatening too. You're just like, damn, gotta be careful. Like certain YouTubers, like I would at this point recommend making sure you go through your backlog in terms of your videos and make sure you've not got anything there that could be drudged up in terms of what's not okay to say anymore. We were talking about this at a group call, myself and Fringy, I think. It was like, imagine being teleported back to like 2010 even, or like 2000, and just like talking with people. There's so much stuff that would probably be said and discussed that you'd just be like, whoa, this feels weird. Yep. you can just talk about it. Like, okay, cool.
Yep. And in terms of the UK, like I don't know, man. It feels like we're almost ahead of that, especially in Scotland. Like we've got some really stringent laws on hate speech and stuff, which can mean whatever the government wants it to mean if they decide they don't like you. And that's the scary part of it. It's all very vague and undefined, but I'm pretty sure if you became too critical of them and you were high profile, they could just find a way to nail you without any difficulty. And that's the kind of worrying part of all of it. I mean, for me, like I don't get involved in politics. Like it's an entertainment channel that I do, and it's the same with MauLer. So we try to just be apolitical and just talk about the writing or the design of things. But even then, like if someone tries to find a way to nail you, they could probably find something that you've said that they can misinterpret. So that's the sword you live under, I suppose.
Yeah.
Parker Bowden here says, little late to the party, but have one on me. Thank you, mate. Stephen Otten says, Drinker, your latest video was spot on. Keep up the good work. MauLer, have you seen the supercut of you insulting Game of Thrones?
No. Wait, is that from like my videos or is that from streams? I don't know, but no, I don't think so.
I've seen it like a MauLer Greatest Insults supercut, which is glorious.
Well, let's just say there's more coming for the boys. I'm very happy with the script so far, but more drafts are needed.
Bradley163 says, Hot Fuzz is the movie that my brother and I will watch over and over again. Thank you so much for doing this. It means the world to us. Cheers. Oh, thank you, and hopefully you've enjoyed the stream.
Yeah.
Trent and Quinn says, a really cool detail is that Danny seems to have an insanely good memory. Look at the scenes where he recalls really small details about things.
Honestly, I'm racking my brain. What he does definitely pick up on certain things. I probably need to watch it again and keep an eye out for that, because I'm blanking a little bit.
That's the thing about the film. Like, if someone tells you to look for a certain thing, you'd like, oh, okay. Like, sometimes it's so subtle you'd have to rewatch the whole thing just to look for that specific element of it. Cartoon Man says, you might be thinking of Dave Angel, Eco Warrior. Yeah, that's the guy I'm thinking of, which is not Chris Angel. But
it was such a good start to us talking about the movie. You're like, right, so Chris Angel.
immediately got the main fucking character's name wrong. It's like, yeah, I'm an expert on this film, clearly. I don't know, like, maybe it's just me. Sometimes I just totally mix up names for no apparent reason.
Oh, brains work in mysterious ways.
Yeah. La Parker says, cheers, drinker. You and Karen Gillan are my two favorite Scots. I'd choose Karen over me, to be fair. But for completely different reasons, of course. Yeah. I love her portrayal as Nebula. I think she does a great job, and I really like the character.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, she's good in Jumanji for other reasons. Greg Zed says, have you seen the 2011 film A Few Best Men, a Screen Australia comedy about a British guy that takes his three best friends to go to Australia for his wedding? It's funny and it has many visual gags. No, I haven't seen that one, I'm afraid.
Not familiar with that one.
Don't know about it. Sorry about that, man. ZXC 1972 says, Angle for Goodfellas. Wolf of Wall Street was the WASP version of that film. WASP. What is WASP? WASP.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. Wolf of Wall Street was a good film. I enjoyed that.
I need to see it again. I only saw it the one time. I remember liking it a bunch, though.
It made me laugh at like how over the top it was right from the start.
Yeah.
La Parca says, favorite Mexican beer? It's got to be Corona, really, hasn't it? Corona with a bit of lime in it. Delicious. Frank Datan says, drinker, this is one of my favorite movies, and Woodford Reserve is a favorite too. Hey. Have either of you seen 13 Assassins? It has some great last stands in it. 13 Assassins.
Is that the one with Antonio Banderas? Because I definitely saw it once. I can't remember if I've seen it. Like, I can't remember it. Pretty sure, because I watched it when I was a kid. I remember the room I was in, but I don't remember the movie.
Give me a second, I'll check.
Unless I'm thinking of something else.
Let's see, 13 Assassins.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely thinking of someone else, because it's 2010. Is that when that came out?
Yeah, so it's a Japanese film. So it's a remake of the 1963 movies. It's set in 1844, towards the end of the Edo period. A group of 13 assassins, comprising 12 samurai and a hunter, secretly plot to assassinate Lord's whatever, the murderous leader of the Asaki clan, to thwart his appointment to the power.
Funny how brains work. The movie I was thinking of is called 13th Warrior.
Ah, yeah. I have seen that, and I really like it. The Antonio Banderas one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good film. Yeah, it'd be an interesting one to talk about sometime, actually, because it's based on a Stephen King novel, The Eaters of the Dead. Chris Ferreira says, drinker, I'd love to see you cover A Fish Called Wanda. Oh, God. It's one of the funniest movies ever that for some reason has just fallen by the wayside. Yeah, God, that's
people don't typically reference it. I remember I found it because I was just told that, like, oh yeah, a bunch of the Python people are in it, and I was like, oh shit.
No, it's a really good movie.
Yeah.
Valiant Renegade says, drinker, short on time, but wanted to request a review or chat on one of my favorite female character films, Jackie Brown. You do some great work. Yeah, Jackie Brown is like one of the lesser known or the lesser talked about Tarantino movies. Like,
was that his third movie or second movie? I can't remember.
I think that was his second. Like, it's really early on. Yeah. He did Jackie Brown, then Reservoir Dogs, I think.
Oh, Reservoir Dogs was his first one, wasn't it? That was his first.
Oh, was it? Was that before Jackie Brown?
Pretty sure.
Oh, okay. But still, it's an early one. It's not one that I watch much, but I do remember it being pretty good from my vague recollection. I would need to really see it again, though. Andrew Clark says, plot hole, Luke never even attempts to contact Batwoman when the suit GPS activates. He just tracks down the suit. Surprised you guys didn't notice.
What do you mean? There's so many things he can do with that suit, and we just gave up. I remember we were like, he basically has the control over it. He can like shut it down. He can do loads of things. He can obviously contact it. He just doesn't do anything. He just goes to see her. It's really weird. But of course, something funny is that when Kate Kane first gets the suit early in season 1, she can't throw batarangs properly, and Luke says, "Yeah, because the batarangs aren't calibrated for you. They're calibrated for like a man." And so the arc of the episode is that she like blames him for it, and he's blaming her for like inability to do it. And then I think the conclusion is like he was like, "Yeah, I was wrong. You know, I fixed it for you." And we were like, "Ugh." You know, now she can throw batarangs probably. But this new Batwoman, she could just throw them straight away and fucking impale people with them. And it's like, oh, wow. Yeah, doesn't she need calibration for the show? I guess maybe all women and all men are just one. There's like a switch calibration, you know, it just covers them all.
I guess the writers of this show were just like, fuck it, we need to just get her transitioned into this character as quickly as possible. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the plot lines were just what they were going to do anyway. It's just like they've shoehorned this new character into it, so it's like, fuck it, like whatever we need to do just to get her up and running as Batwoman, that'll do.
I'm with Jay Longbone on a lot of like whenever they show her stumble or throw a batarang wrong and then throw it right, it's like this is like lip service to the idea that she's struggling. It's not actually struggling. It's just like, oh, we should probably throw some things in here and there to show that Batwoman is not as good as Kate Kane. It's like, oh, shut up. We know you want to get it to peak performance. We all know that.
What's the next one? Evil Zombie Toe says, "Drinker, you eloquent imbiber of distilled spirits. Gina Carano has been picked up by the Daily Wire to produce and star in her own production." Yeah, she has. I'd heard about that today, so that is good news. I would really like to see Lucasfilm offer a groveling apology and beg for her to come back, but who knows if that will happen? I don't know. Valiant Renegade says, as per Nicholas Lott, 13 Assassins is spectacular. Well, there we go. It's
pretty good that one, so
yeah, pretty good endorsement though. WREF says, thank you for Kitchen Gun. I really needed a laugh. Cheers. That's a great short. It really is. It was followed up by Kitchen Grenade, I think, as well. John Doe says, I got some Slayer series for my birthday. Have you watched them? Hilarious fantasy with a good protagonist that's female. The first film, Slayer Perfect, is on YouTube. First 6 minutes will sell or sink it. Slayer Perfect? No, I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, neither have I.
Don't know what that is. Walt says, Cobra Kai was nice, but things started falling apart at the end of season 2. I worry that the logic of the world wasn't given enough love. Thoughts? I think it pulls it back in season 3. It was starting to go, like you say, a bit off the rails in season 2. It was getting too focused on the younger characters, but I think for me, season 3 pulled it back, and now it's just a well-balanced show.
I've still not seen it.
Damn it, MauLer. Give it a watch. It's really good. It'll make you happy, I guarantee. Casey McGregor says, Dalton was a great villain in The Rocketeer. Watch it if you haven't already. Yeah, he played like a German spy or something in Hollywood in the 1930s. The Rocketeer was a good movie. I really like that film. It's been a good few years since I've seen it, but it's got a proper like old-fashioned vibe to it, and it's just, it's a comic book movie before they were a big thing. I really liked it. Excuse me. British Knight says, the reason why Pegg, Frost and Wright work so well together is because they've been collaborating since the 90s. Frost and Pegg both starred in Wright's first major directing work, the sitcom Spaced. They know each other. They're good mates. They've been together for a long time. Yeah, it absolutely comes together on screen, I would say. Walt also says, consider importing some South African and Namibian beers. We've got some good stuff down here, drinker. Start a Discord, mate. The problem with Discord is you've got to moderate it and stuff, and I don't have time or the energy to do stuff like that. And I feel like they all become breeding grounds for like lots of nasty stuff that I don't want to be associated with.
Oh, it can be. Discords are tough. But the good stuff that comes out of them is pretty great. It's a really great community hub a lot of the time.
Yeah. Walt also says The Tick is unironically one of the best shows of the last decade. Destiny is calling. Drinker. MauLer, tell him.
Oh yeah. Well, you said you've seen it, right?
I've seen little bits of it. I've never watched it like dedicated or anything, but I've seen Serafinowicz as The Tick, and he does play it well.
Yeah, the character is just so entertaining to have someone who's so like he's quintessential hero man, but at the same time, like it just in a world that doesn't quite reflect that. And so, like I love the small stuff. Just like he walks into a room with Miss Lind being the bad guy who can like electrocute people, and he'll just refer to these people as villain. He'd be like on guard, villain. I think what I was sold on the show, like entirely, was he's clearly a good guy, 100%, and he's fighting to help our protagonist. And he's on the floor, and she's electrocuting stuff, and he's like, "You need to get to safety, chum," and he just throws him out the window. So good.
Just completely ill-equipped to actually cope with what he's doing. Yeah. That's great. Adrian says, "Does MauLer like black chicks?" I'm just reading out the super chats.
Sure, 100%. Why not? Perhaps not all of them, because some can be assholes, much like every human being. But hey, some are awesome.
I don't think any of us discriminate here. If they're beautiful, they're beautiful. You know.
Yeah.
Chuck Grable says, "Ever seen Dawn? You go running round to Rero. It's extremely British. Also going back to base for beers and steroids." Sorry. So I'm trying to read out what he's written here, and forgive me if I'm mangling it, but it's like, "Ever seen Dawn? You going round to Rero?" I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry, mate. But yeah, I fully endorse the beers and steroids, so go for it. The Justice 35 says, "Longman bad. Just kidding. It's good to see you back after the great civil war over Bly Manor." When will EFAP do another Jeb-Fap, and is Wolf doing well?
Yeah, he's doing good. And another Jeb-Fap is like an episode where we just have Jeb memes. I don't know. The one that happened with was a Joker one. So as soon as they make a Joker sequel, we'll get plenty of more Jeb Bush memes. I'm sure of it.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. Joshua Vogt says, "Jaws has a couple of good sea shanties." Yeah, it does. "I've sang Show Me the Way to Go Home every night since my son was born. Also Point Break or Bad Boys 2? That's the question. I'd go Point Break, personally.
Probably Point Break, yeah, but I remember enjoying Bad Boys 2 a whole bunch, despite it probably having poopy writing. Like, it's just a... Do you remember... I forget the name of the actor, the guy who played Cypher in The Matrix.
Yeah, I know who you mean.
He's their
he's their captain or something.
Yeah.
Woosah.
And he's like, he's like, "Did you guys wake up and think, how are we gonna fuck up the captain's life today? Let's kidnap 3 fat people and leave them on the street." It's like really fucking funny.
I just love the other 2 guys who are like, similar to them, like they're both detectives as well. And at one point they're like, "Yeah, the more you guys fuck up, the more we look like rock stars, baby."
Yeah, I remember there's a lot of good shit that we might do an EFAP movies for that. Why not? Get some alcohol, watch some explosions. Good old Michael Bay.
Adrian says, "Do you read Brandon Sanderson?" No, I'm afraid I don't. So I can't really give you much there, mate. Ryan Pittsinger says, "Do you guys think experimental filmmaking like Eraserhead is objectively poor, or because the world is established with experimental rules, it's fine?" I mean, personally, like if you want to go into this kind of art house style where everything's very symbolic and like it's a world that's completely different from ours, it's fine.
Remember, it's internal consistency, not representative of reality. That's not like the metric you go by. It's as long as the world itself, because stuff like Twin Peaks, Eraserhead, whatever else. People who are critical of those movies are literally like ones who are really invested and they have things to praise and things to criticize. It's usually going to be within the world's rules, within what they understand to be happening in them. Because yeah, Lynch is very he's an auteur. he's very
indeed. I mean, personally, I'm not a huge fan of Eraserhead, but I think it's just the subject matter. I think it's just like kind of distasteful. But yeah, like in terms of like the visuals and stuff, it's an interesting movie. I talked about The Lighthouse recently, which again is a movie that you can't really assess in terms of like a logically consistent plot or character motivation, because it's not that kind of film.
But you can only necessarily like take pieces of information we get and interpret exactly what you think the storyline may have been in like a grounded sense. Because The Lighthouse is I was pretty blown away by The Lighthouse. I was impressed.
Well, I think in terms of movies like that, you then go by like, well, was I entertained by it? Was I engaged with it? And was I gripped by it? And if the answer is yes, then it's like, well, okay, clearly the film is doing something right. We just need to redefine what we look for in a film when it comes to things like this. And I think that's where you don't necessarily always have consistent concrete standards for what you look for in a film. It varies sometimes between movies depending on what the film's trying to do, and that's a good example of it, I suppose.
There's lots to dig out of The Lighthouse. So there's very overt references to Greek mythology. It's,
yeah.
Definitely get what they're going for a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's like Proteus stuff, isn't it? Like it's the some of the symbolism and some of the framing of the shots is just straight out of like classic mythology paintings and stuff. Interesting film, but yeah, it's a good example, I guess, of what we're saying, where there are times when you have to redefine what you look for in a film, and it's just a case of like going by experience and saying like, well, does this film really engage you in an interesting way? Yeah, if it does, it's doing something good. Evil Zombie Toe says, if you haven't seen it, there's a 1981 South African movie called The Gods Must Be Crazy. It's a timeless and solid movie, if a little bit dated now. I've not heard of that. The Gods Must Be Crazy. And it always makes me feel bad when someone sends a super chat like that, and it's like, oh, this movie is fantastic, and it's like something I've never heard of. I never know what I should say in that situation.
It's obviously the nature of our jobs, right? Like a lot of people will be like, well, you guys talk about movies, you must have seen this one, you're right. And like, I've not seen that one.
I know. It's kind of annoying. It's like, well, we haven't seen every movie ever. Night King 01 says, man, I got this notification in the middle of watching The Two Towers re-release on IMAX. Sad to miss most of this glorious stream. Here's $5. Well, thank you very much, mate. I'll re-upload it to Critical Drinker after hours, so you'll be able to see it there in its entirety. But yeah, Two Towers, fantastic. I'm going to, at some point, I'm going to do live streams on all of the Lord of the Rings films, like one each, and looking forward to it.
You're going to get like a full set of people for that, or just the one?
Full set, I think. So I'll find out who's interested, and then we'll go from there. So it could be kind of long streams, but like, I want to do it right. I want to give a good range of opinions on it, and just I think get a lot of people who've got a lot of strong opinions about those films. So yeah. Binary Surfer says, wearing a helmet is a test of acting ability to convey emotion and mood with what's left. The Body of the Jaw, Dredd, is a masterpiece. It's a prime example of this. I mean, Dredd's a fantastic film.
Completely agreed. I just don't think, because I'm assuming this might be in reference to Pedro Pascal and Mandalorian. I don't think he did much with the Mandalorian character. And I don't know if that's a failing on his part or the people who directed it, but like Mando's delivery in a lot of scenes is very bleh.
I think you could... You never get a sense that it is Pedro Pascal wearing the helmet and the mask and all that. It could be anyone, essentially. And, you could just have him doing the voiceover. I assume that's what they were going for with Mando. He's a blank slate that you can almost imprint yourself onto, project yourself.
Maybe a little too blank.
Yeah.
We got two, because you want to have it be really meaningful that he and Baby Yoda are separated, and it's just like, I don't know that I felt much of anything there, because the closest you get is the end of the episode where Baby Yoda's taken away, and I think it's deliberate. They open him with him laughing with Baby Yoda, It's like, oh my god, they're probably thinking like, oh god, we need to set that these guys really care about each other, because I don't know if you may have picked it up from how blank Mando is with emotions. So here it is now.
I mean, it sometimes comes across in little gestures and little things he does for Baby Yoda and all that. But
I wish it were more.
Yeah,
I wish for a lot more from that show.
Melville Pops says, MauLer, who have you met up with in real life besides Metal? Who are you planning on meeting after China's bioweapon is defeated?
Once COVID's gone, I say that as if it's a possibility. I really hope it does go away, but I don't know what's going to happen with how everything's going. I thought that it was going to be over before we got to 2021, but here we are. So yeah, assuming everything goes back to normal, I'd like to meet everybody. I'm on good terms with it online. As for who I have met, Metal and Smiler, they're the people I know in real life, and he was supposed to come over for a bunch of stuff in 2020, but not allowed, and he really wants to come over this year. And again, I don't know if it's going to be possible with how lockdowns are going, but I think we're all itching for because this is the thing. Our jobs have become really important to a lot of people now because of being locked inside so much. They just want to hear people just talk about stuff as if everything is normal, nice and comfy sort of thing. And that obviously reflects in how, we'd like to get back outside a bit as well. Metal, I know for one, misses pubs like crazy. To go back and hang out and stuff. And it's like, so the drive is there. And once everything gets back to normal, I'd like to meet all kinds of people, I'd say. Yeah.
Likewise. I mean, I think I'm with Metal on this one. Like, I miss pubs. I miss going out to restaurants and stuff. I miss going to cities and having nights out and stuff like with my friends. Like it's a bit boring otherwise. But like I'm not going to pretend like I've got it hard or anything. Like there's people who've lost their jobs and like who are completely broke and stuff. So like we're just like bitching about little things, but everyone to some extent is feeling this, and we're all kind of looking forward to when it's over. Hopefully it will be. For me, like there's a bunch of people I'd like to have a drink with and meet up. Like, damn, MauLer, I'm sure I'll come down to Wales at some point. I'm sure we can meet up at some point.
For sure.
But it'd be great to see so many people in the real world. It's just being able to do it, man. Yeah, just got to bide our time, I suppose. Cody Clemens says, just got done moving to Texas, expecting temps down to -2 degrees. What, in fucking Texas? No way. Your content will make me laugh and keep me warm. Cheers. Bask in the warming glow of MauLer and Drinker. Night King says, is it just me or the one-on-one action in Game of Thrones always sucked and were terribly edited? Brienne's fight with the Hound confused me so much. It was a ludicrous fight. Like there's times when he punches her full in the face with a chainmail fist and like she's able to not die from that. Like that would shatter every bone in your face.
I remember if someone really did that. I was hot taking that. Like I fucking hate that episode and that fight as well. It really annoyed. Do you remember the dialogue in that fight that makes it happen?
Yeah, it's really good try to get them fighting each other.
Yeah, she's there on behalf of Catelyn Stark. She's got a sword from Jaime because Jaime felt guilty about his hand in what happened to the Starks and what he owes her. And so the Hound is like, that's Lannister steel. And so the logical response is, yes, it is. I was provided it by Jaime Lannister, who was spared by Catelyn Stark in exchange for the Stark children. I'm loyal to Catelyn Stark entirely. I don't give a fuck about the Lannisters. In fact, I kind of hate them. That would be the response to give. Instead, she goes, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Why would you and then they fight, and their fight is really I remember a lot of people describing it as like really brawly. It's really gritty and heavy, but I just got really annoyed watching it. It's just like this is just like a fan thing. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if Brienne and the Hound fought?
Yeah. And I think Brienne the character is constrained a little bit by the actress that plays her. Like I know Gwendolyn Christie is a big girl. She's well over 6 foot. But you kind of know if she was put in a real fight against someone like the Hound or Rory McCann's size, like he would destroy her in like under a minute.
Yeah, she's very tall, but it's not like she's muscle bound.
No, exactly. And you're not going to get an actress who can do that, really. You'd have to go down the route of like finding a bodybuilder or something.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing. But you're kind of looking at it. It's like, no, this just feels stupid. Like he would easily win this fight, even injured as he is. So yeah, it's a bit shit, and it's just contrived to make it happen. Like you say, it's a little bit of fan service. Like, get two well-known fighters, put them up against each other, see who wins.
Mm-hmm.
A Hill says Game of Thrones season 5 to 8 made me want to experience 9/11 from inside the towers. Oh, God damn, man. They were pretty bad. Don't know if they were that bad, but like, yeah. They didn't make me happy.
Pinpoint where did the show die, and it's like, as much as you can go back to season 7, 6, 5, 4, even some people go as far as saying 2 is where it died. I think we can all agree 8 was catastrophic. Like, as much as anything else was bad, 8 did something special.
Yeah, I think 7. I was starting to get that sense of like, it's moving away from this. The politics and the maneuvering and the really clever stuff, and it's just all spectacle, big set piece battles and stuff, and it's like, it just feels like clunky now. Greg Zed says, have you seen the 2011 film A Few Best Men? A Screen Australia. Wait,
you read that one, right? Yeah.
Yes, it must just be another one. I think he must have just duplicated it. Yeah, so no, we haven't seen that. DJ Dust says, just making sure I've sent £20, the £20 that I plan to. Thank you again. Take care, Mr. Drinker. Yeah, I've got it. Thanks, man. The God of Gravy says, hey, Drinker, have some drinking money. Also add to casting debate, have you ever seen the 2009 film The Road? Yeah, I have. Viggo Mortensen's performance in it is why he is literally the perfect choice for Joel. I think probably Viggo is a bit old now.
Yeah, he's probably not able to do it now, unfortunately.
But The Road was a fantastic movie. I've read the book as well, actually, so both were really good. Tim Fusco says, Drinker, regular Woodford Reserve or the double oaked? For this old man, it's double oaked or Noblet Silver Gin. Both stand up to a good cigar. To MauLer, Christmas rules.
Hey man, I'm totally chill with Christmas. Christmas is awesome. I'm just saying, it's younger brother Halloween is cooler, right?
I don't think this is double oak. This is Distiller Select. So there you go. But it's damn good. It goes down a treat. Unhinged Entertainment says, now do Hot Rod and Hot Shots 1 and 2. All fantastic movies. I love them.
Hot Rod is
Hot Rod's a fantastic movie. God. Yeah, I'm trying to even think of it. Like when he's having when he has the fight with Ian McShane at the end, and he does the move to make him shit himself. And it's like, you gotta be kidding me! Incredible. Monkey Man 4298 says, any thoughts on doing a Drinker Fixies episode on Kylo Ren, where you talk about how to make him into a threatening villain? I mean, I feel like I've kind of done that in a roundabout way with Rey. And
you kind of talked about comparing him, right? Yeah.
I mean, I compared him to Darth Vader, but I also did like a Drinker Fixies on Rey and Finn and stuff. And in the course of that, kind of redefined Kylo Ren as like actually capable of winning fights and being dangerous. So,
what a crazy idea.
I kind of went from that. What a terrible like waste of a character that man is. Yeah.
It's crazy that some people still refer to him as like he's the only good thing about the sequels. It's like, he didn't. What do you mean? Like,
it beggars belief. It's like people who say that. It's like I genuinely want to ask them: have you seen a movie ever apart from this? Because it's like I don't know what you're basing it on. Point Curation says, creation of art is the best subversion of cultural vandalism. Speaking of, I launched a Kickstarter at Project/Thomas set of abstract paintings. Well, okay. Well, if anyone knows about it, then go to it and take a look. Night King 01 says, Eli Roth is directing a Borderlands movie. No! I didn't even know about that.
Someone mentioned it to me in a DM, I think, and I was just like, what?
That's an odd choice.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about it, I'm afraid. Michael Beacom says, Drink Along movie, Poltergeist 3. Take a drink whenever someone says Carol Ann. No one can make it to the end credits. Yeah, I fucking remember that film. Like, damn. Poltergeist was such a good film, but Poltergeist, the sequels were all terrible. Yeah, the original was great, though. I really enjoyed that. Dai Kahari says their standard is consistent. If you're not a wokatanical or you oppose them or don't serve them completely, you're a right-leaning and thus a bad guy from World War II. Yeah, basically. Yeah, I said as much in a recent tweet where I was like, I've decided that anyone who disagrees with me in any way is that. And that seems to be their mentality. It's ridiculous. Where did I get to? Oh yeah, there we are. I'm just last few super chats here, just so I'm finishing up. Daniel Warden says, have you read the Aragon books? If so, what do you think of them? Do you think they should try to remake the live action movies? I haven't read the books, I'm afraid, so I don't know.
All I know is that everyone hated the the first attempt they had at the movies, I guess.
Yeah. Dr. Zawardin says, this really hurts. I need some ice cream. That's Skinner's line. MauLer, is Wolf doing good?
Yeah, from what I know, yeah, he's doing good.
Cool. Malcolm McKee says, would be interested to see a review of positive or negative of Southland Tales or District 9. I would give District 9 an overwhelmingly positive review. Really like that film.
I'm liking that a whole bunch. I haven't seen the other one, Southland Tales, did you say?
Southland Tales, yeah. Likewise, yeah. I've not seen it. Eric Bergquist says, thoughts on reviewing something of Jackie Chan sometime, Drunken Master or Nice Guy, thinking you might have a fun take on it. Yeah. I Jackie Chan movies were never like heavy on plot or the sort of normal things that I might look for in a film. They were all about the spectacle of the fighting, and damn, like the work that guy put in is just unbelievable. If you ever watch like the blooper reels or like the behind the scenes stuff, like all of their fights, like he was getting injured like every single time going through it, and he just soldiered on, and that is something pretty respectable, I would say. Night King says batarangs are not calibrated for a woman. Lol, what the fuck?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense at all. It was like you need to calibrate them to aim them properly. It's like, what?
Aren't they just like boomerangs, basically? You throw at people. So like,
yeah, and they just say that she can't throw them yet because they've not been calibrated. It doesn't like I should have probably said earlier. Like, yeah, don't think that we thought that made sense. We didn't. We were confused. We didn't know what they meant.
Stybeck B says, you must get yourself into VR. I was just slashing hordes of zombies for 3 hours, brain dead style. Now I'm installing Resident Evil 7 mod now. Join us. Yeah. I'm going to be honest, man. I'm looking forward to Resident Evil 8. I think that's going to be good fun, and I'm going to stream it as I play it, so I can hopefully give my thoughts as I go. Night King 01 says MauLer is talking about Joe Pantoliano in Bad Boys. Yes, that's the actor's name.
Yeah, that's him.
Graham Ross says a timeless movie that's a bit dated. Okay, Spoon. Drake number 4 is in paperback yet? Yes, Drake number 4 is in paperback, and so are all of them. So you should be able to get them on Amazon, no problem. Legion Steve says, hi Drinker, watched The Lighthouse because you recommended it and really enjoyed it. Thanks. Good. Yeah. It's nice when I get to recommend films that are a little bit offbeat and a bit different, and that was one that made a really good impression on me, so I'm glad other people could enjoy it too. Farewell Thunderchild says, Danny's Bristol Rovers shirt equals gas head. I didn't even notice what he was wearing, to be honest, so yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Wormy Spoons says, seen Raised by Wolves yet? Or Mr. Nobody? No, it's on my list though of things to watch. Raised by Wolves.
Is that Jared Leto that's in that film? I think I've seen Mr. Nobody. I think I saw it ages ago. Weird one.
I definitely haven't seen it, but I want to watch Raised by Wolves because a lot of people have recommended it. Weedy Morrison says, "Hi Scotsman, much love from Derry. Who do you think would win a fight after 3 bottles of Buckfast? Live stream for charity." Who do you think would win? Who's fighting? Like me and MauLer, or like other random people? I don't know. I don't think anyone after 3 bottles of Buckfast would be doing much of anything apart from like puking. Night King 01 says, "Reading recommendation for you and MauLer. Read Star Wars Outbound Flight. Thrawn is 1,000 times more interesting than the sequel characters."
I am 100% sure you're right.
I mean, to be fair, like a plate of like cheese sandwiches would be more interesting than, you know, the sequel characters. It's not a high benchmark.
You say that like the cheese sandwiches don't go on an incredible arc. What's wrong with you?
Well, yeah. They pass through a lot of trials in my stomach. What's this? Trenton Quinn says, "Please get this Scottish weather out of Texas, lol." Yeah. Fucking no, you guys can keep it. It's snow here everywhere. Everything's covered in snow. You can't go anywhere. All the roads are fucking closed right now in Scotland. So I think you guys are doing better. PSX Hacker says, "Remember the inspectors for the commission? They arrived right in the middle of the gunfight and were shocked. Keep up the amazing work, guys." Yeah, I remember that. They're standing there with their little folders with the sign in the background that falls off the building. That's like perfect. Farewell Thunderchild says, "Bring on Jay for Lord of the Rings stream and not the Longman." Jay has to see it first, so
yeah.
Or we could just make him watch it or make him do the stream without seeing it, and just give your thoughts based on what you've heard. James T. Kirk says, "MauLer, can I PM you a great question in Discord?"
Why didn't you just super chat it?
Is it really personal or something? Like I would read it out to him.
Yeah, if you at me in Discord, I might be able to catch it.
This may shock you, but like MauLer probably gets a lot of messages in Discord and various other places. So, Stephen Otten says, "I don't have a direct link, but the supercuts I mentioned were edited by Sideburns. They're easy to find. I may post them to my Facebook page for a laugh." Well, by all means, do it. Wormy Spoons says, "Drinker, would you consider possibly co-writing or helping an aspiring writer? Can I email you? Appreciate you're a busy man. Thanks." I mean, I'm happy to give advice and stuff, but in terms of co-writing a book, like I've got more than enough ideas to kind of keep me going for the next 10 years. It's just finding the time to write the books. So yeah, co-writing something is probably not, I'm probably not the guy to help you on that one. But if you want some general advice about getting published or whatever, I will, do my best to help you out. 1 second. I think we've just got a couple more and then we're done. Yeah, one more here. "Hello, fine gentlemen. Thoughts on Gina Carano sticking up her fist up old Mickey's arse by announcing her new movie? I support it 100%, and I hope it does really well. I think it'll get a lot of support."
It would be, I mean, because I've seen a lot of people saying like, "Oh, make a second Hollywood, make an alternative to all the different kinds of things." Like, could happen eventually. I don't know. I don't know if there's enough money, support, and people to sort of separate out, because imagine like an alternative to Twitter that was as successful as Twitter. And by the way, this is not something I want in terms of like there's just you choose one platform to go on because everyone has their, I don't know, political or social beliefs, and it just permanently splits everybody. But I would prefer that than people being ousted out of the internet entirely.
Yeah. I hate this attitude though of like, "Oh, you don't like this platform, well go and make your own." It's like, okay, with no resources and no backing, no server space, nothing. Like, oh, cool, yeah.
Google's
I'm
been
sure
here
that'll work.
since like the beginning. It's not, you can't just make your own Google. Like, it's just not a thing. And they have major control over YouTube as well as just general sway when it comes to tech companies and stuff. So
yeah, it's a frustrating situation to be in, because it's like when one side's got the monopoly on basically everything, like every aspect of online discourse. It's like, what the fuck are you supposed to do in response to that?
Yeah,
you're done. Neil Bordeaux says, "Google will not let me send a nasty message. Please imagine your worst. You'd be surprised what I can imagine." Darren says, "Just ordered my It'll Be Fine t-shirt. MauLer, you got anything on Teespring?"
I always forget because they confuse me. I'm pretty sure it's Teespring that I'm on. Yeah.
I think that's the general one that you do for merch. So
because they all have different names that relate to T-shirt, and so I always like accidentally get my wrong. But yeah, I'm on. If you search just MauLer and Teespring, you'll be able to find my little page on it.
Nice one. Just for reference as well, for everyone who's watching, there is a link to MauLer's channel on the description for this. So give him a follow, give him a subscription. He produces awesome content.
Well, if they have the time.
Yeah. Graham Ross says, sorry, Drinker, I stopped at Drake #3 a few years ago and left it at that. There's more. So happy. Buying now. Enjoy the royalties. Thanks, man. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the books in the series, because there's like 6 more. So lots. Night King 01, are Rey and Kylo less compelling than glue drying? Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. At least glue's got an arc. It goes from being wet to dry. And it's consistent. Kylo and Rey they're just 2 people that kind of bump into each other. 12asaur says, keep up the good work, an Italian Raptor. Thank you. Stephen Otten, I highly recommend The Sound of Metal. Riz Ahmed is phenomenal in it, well deserving of an Oscar nomination. Oh, fair enough. And Gray, son of Krieg, says, I work as armed security at a discount bookstore. I was walking by one day and saw a 70-year-old woman there in the front. I talked to her about Hot Fuzz and how good it is. Mentioned the gore too, but she went ahead and bought it. Nice. Also, Sheeran Parker says, get cinematic Venom for your Lord of the Rings streams. Well, I'll put together a hand-picked team of men.
Do you see any of that particular EFAB? Holy shit, we did.
No, whoa.
It's possibly, it might end up being the most popular one outside of the Rise of Skywalker one. We covered a guy who basically said all 3 of the Lord of the Rings films are terrible in an hour, 10-minute video, and we went through it with Armored Skeptic and Weekend Warrior, and my god, I don't know if I've told you this. I always love seeing people's reactions to it. I almost hope you haven't been told this, but whatever. He said that one of his criticisms of Return of the King was that, Gimli is out of character in that he wants Frodo and Sam to die.
Give me context for that.
When he says, "Let him stay there, let him rot. What do we care?" You might think he's talking about Sauron in Mordor, but Cinematic Venom said no. He was talking about Frodo.
That is a leap and a half, my friend. Fuck me.
And he said, the problem is that Gimli is shown to care about them before that and after that. So why is he saying that Frodo should rot in Mordor? That's out of character.
I mean, that's either a brilliant case of mental gymnastics or just clearly not understanding a single thing that's going on.
The video is full of them, and it was funny as well. We just started talking a lot about what's so good about Lord of the Rings in the middle of him randomly saying these weird shit it's about what's so bad about them. I recommend it. If anybody here was like, oh, what's EFABs? Start with that episode. It's quite a ride.
Yeah. Oh man, it's just the work that you guys do to expose kind of terrible film criticism. It's funny and it's enjoyable, but it's also kind of important because a lot of these videos that you look at, on the very surface level, they kind of seem almost authoritative because they're well produced and they talk in quite a confident manner. And it's sometimes easy to just get caught up in it without even thinking about what they're saying. But then when you actually stop to break them down and say, well, let's actually consider the points you're making here, it just completely falls apart. And I think that's an important thing to consider, when you look at criticism, because it can so easily sway so many people.
I was going to say, obviously you've been on a couple of episodes. They could check those one out too. But it is a strange format, but it's at times the format that's required for some videos.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever made it to the end of an EFAP. I've always bailed out either in the middle of the super chats or before that even. I said, man, it tends to start quite late anyway, and it's usually about 3 a.m. where I'm I probably need to sign off now because I can barely see the fucking screen. But it's always a good laugh. You get such a good range of guests in, so it's good fun. Oh, sorry, there's one more super chat that's just come in here. It says, it's from Mango. Mango says, hello. So I think I put a super chat in your Ghost of Tsushima stream, but I don't think it got read. In that case, I am very sorry, sir, because I thought I got them all. Wanted to know if you got any romance recommendations since you don't talk about this genre much. Thank you. Romance. What is this? I feel like it's dead now.
Hey, Hot Fuzz, there you go.
Yeah, it's got a love story in it between Danny and an Angel. No, man, I mean, it's just romance movies it's not really a genre that I specialize in, so I would struggle to recommend stuff to you.
Love
to
Actually,
be honest.
go for that.
Yeah, that's kind of a depressing movie when you really look at it.
It's all uplifting by the end. Everyone has a happy ending. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. What's her name? God damn it! What's the one who's got like the crazy brother, who like she desperately wants to get with a guy who's like in her office, and her brother keeps calling her, and she has to like go away to like spend Christmas with him instead, and he like tries to hit her and stuff. Fuck.
Oh yeah, I can't. That's the thing. I'm referencing this film. I haven't seen it in ages, so.
It's just like there's a lot of subplots in that where you look at it and it's like, oh, that's really depressing. Actually, that's like these characters don't get like a fun or at least a satisfying ending. It's like they kind of go on living shit lives. So damn, yeah. But I think of romance and I think of like romantic comedies for some reason, and so they're just really formulaic trash for the most part. Drinker, can you please review The Last Starfighter? It would be my honor to do that. V. Landon Laurentis gave me a $5 super chat, so thank you. But I think we got to the end of it, actually.
Well,
we made it. Man, I just want to say, like, it's been a pleasure talking about this movie. Like, I've covered a lot of films doing this, but like this is one of the genuinely fun ones where I just had a good laugh watching it and a good laugh talking about it.
All a blast. And to remind people who've seen it of the jokes in it, everyone gets to sort of get a bonus laugh again thinking about it. And it's a movie that's absolutely stood the test of time. It's fucking incredibly tightly written, great cast. It absolutely fits in with that trilogy of movies. It's like I said, it's one of the greatest movies I think that exists, especially if you want something just feel good. It's definitely up there. Super quotable, as a lot of people in chat have said already and have proven by the fact that if you say, like, what's your favorite line in the movie? It's like, oh, let me pick out of the hundreds. Amazing that they pulled it off with how tight it is. Like I said, one of the best sort of movies to teach you about setup and payoff and how effective it can be, as well as repetition. And then it also has like a nice little message in it as well. Great blend of action and comedy. Great to watch with friends and great to rewatch. So, what more can you ask for?
Indeed. I think you can make some really interesting videos, like just like you say about the concepts of setup and payoff and structuring a good, tightly written screenplay. You could genuinely have a field day with this film. So yeah, great movie all around, and a pleasure to talk about it, and a pleasure to talk to you again, my friend. Like it's been a while since we've done this, and man, thank you for coming on, for doing this tonight. It's been a real honor to have you on, mate.
Absolutely, always love talking to you, man. It's always fun.
Cool. Well, I just I guess we'll finish up there, and I want to say thank you to everyone who's joined us on chat. Thank you for all the super chats. Thank you for your generosity, and I guess we'll catch you again next time. But for the time being, that is all we've got for today. So we are going to go away now.